This May 21st, 2024. Can I please ask you all to find a seat? And for those of you who are here for the first time, I'd like to welcome you and welcome to the City of Fort Lauderdale City Commission. We usually start with a Pledge of Allegiance and do a number of announcements. We have two presentations tonight also. Presentations are where we recognize individuals, events, departments, exciting times, and it gives the city an opportunity to recognize those folks before we get into the actual agenda and the business of the evening. So if I can ask you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. If you could all please join me in a moment of silence, during which time I would also ask you to recognize the several people who have passed away in our community this past week. Sheena Grant, who was an employee in our Human Resources Department. Mary Celeste Dinnan also passed away, sister of a school board member. Eddie Lee Ingram Bell and Eva M. Hill. If you could, in fact, Eddie Lee Ingram Bell, she was 99 years old. She was a 70-year resident of Fort Lauderdale and 4+ decade educator. Worked at Dillard, Walker Elementary, Larkdale, Plantation Park, and she was an advocate for the Golden Heights community. Also, Mrs. Eva Mosby Hill, she was wife of one of the city's previous assistant city managers. So if you could please join me in that moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, welcome back. Hope you're feeling better. If you could please call the roll.
Commissioner Herbst? Vice Mayor Glassman?
Here.
Commissioner Beasley-Pittman?
Here.
Commissioner Sturman?
Here.
Mayor Trentalis?
Here. We have a few agenda announcements and some agenda changes. In CM2, the dates were revised in the CAM and the exhibits. The April 2nd, 2024 conference meeting minutes were removed for revisions that need to be done, and they will be approved at a later time. We have 3 walk-ons. One is a walk-on motion for discussion regarding a site plan level 2 for a restaurant with outdoor dining at 300 South Andrews Avenue. We're going to take that up right after our consent agenda items have been voted on. Then we also have a walk-on motion which will take place at the end of the meeting regarding the acquisition of a Manolo Valdez sculpture that would be in the Hazinga Park. And then we have a walk-on resolution that's being requested by Commissioner Sturman concerning our support for the school board in its effort to try to realign some of its building priorities and efficiencies. So with that, do I hear a motion to approve well, we don't have minutes, right?
No,
we have other
we
minutes.
do. We have other minutes.
Other
Just
minutes.
that one. Yeah.
Yes.
So motion to approve the minutes and the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley-Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst? Yes. Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and now the minutes and the agenda as amended have been approved. So we have a couple presentations tonight.
Mr. Mayor, before you start, you said CM2, they have an amendment to that?
Dates were revised in the CAM and the exhibits.
Okay, do me a favor, so as not to have to pull that, you don't have a printed version of that? Oh, this is it right here. Okay, thank you.
You got it? You all set? Okay. So I will be making the first presentation with regard to National Public Works Week here in the city of Fort Lauderdale, and I would please ask Alan Dodd, who is the Director of Public Works, Talal Abi Karam, who is the Assistant Director of Utilities, Omar Castellon, the Assistant Director of Engineering, and Steve Hilberg, Senior Project Manager, and Senior Project Manager Gatorian Wallace, who is the Stormwater Operations Chief. Please join me at the podium. Great. Thank you for joining me. Thank you. So this is a proclamation from the Office of the Mayor of the City of Fort Lauderdale in recognition of National Public Works Week. That's May 19th to 25th, 2024. Whereas 2024 marks the 64th annual National Public Works Week sponsored by the American Public Works Association. This year's theme, Advancing Quality of Life for All, is a testament to the commitment and dedication of the public works professionals that contribute to the high quality of life and well-being of all neighbors, businesses, and visitors to the city of Fort Lauderdale. Whereas public works professionals play a central role in building and maintaining infrastructure, facilities, and services that are vital to sustainable and resilient communities. The dedicated individuals include engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government working together to make this essential contribution possible. Public works professionals are responsible for building, improving, and protecting our city by maintaining transportation infrastructure, resurfacing roads, providing quality drinking water, managing water treatment and solid waste treatment systems, planting and distributing trees, sweeping city streets, operating an efficient fleet, completing community improvement projects, and maintaining public buildings, structures, and facilities. How do you have time in the day for everything? Public Works employees are committed to serving our neighbors with integrity, compassion, accountability, respect, and excellence. Whereas the support of an informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works systems and programs. It is in the public interest for Fort Lauderdale's neighbors, civic leaders, and children to gain knowledge and to maintain an ongoing awareness and understanding of public works and the public works projects in their respective communities. Now, therefore, we, as the City Commissioners of the City of Fort Lauderdale, do hereby proclaim the week of May 19th to 2024 as National Public Works Week here in the City of Fort Lauderdale, and call upon our neighbors and civic associations to recognize the contributions that public works employees make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Dated this 21st day of May, 2024, signed by myself, Mayor Dean Trantelis. Congratulations and thank you for all your amazing service. Alan, would you like to say a few words?
On behalf of the 480 employees that we have in Public Works, just would like to say thank you to the Mayor and the Commission for the proclamation tonight, and to all the residents who have to put up with us as we're dealing with water pipe breaks, other issues on weekends at nighttime. We take it very serious, the responsibilities that we have to take care of the city, and so thank you very much for, again, having us for this recognition.
Okay, more water. So the second presentation is with regard to American Water Works Association's award presentation. This is going to be presented by the Florida section of the American Water Works Association. Marjorie Craig, Emily's Torres, and Tyler Tedcastle. Are they here? Yes, no? Oh, there we are. How are you? Would you mind pushing the button at the bottom there? And that will turn the mic on. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, good night, everyone. My name is Emily Torres. I'm the chair of the American Water Works Association for Region 6, which is in Broward County. So representatives from the state and federal levels of the American Water Works Association are pleased to present the American, Canadian, Mexican Water Landmarks Award for the city of Fort Lauderdale for the Northwest 2nd Avenue Water Tower. This award is in recognition of the city's maintenance and operation of the water tower since its construction around 1952. The water tower.
That looks heavy.
A little bit.
Yes.
It's built to last.
Yes. The water tower has a capacity of 1 million gallons and still performs as originally intended. Its function was and still is helping to maintain adequate pressure in the city's water distribution system, as well as storing water for the use in emergencies. As the name of the award implies, this water tower has stood as a prominent landmark in the city, especially along areas of Cistern Boulevard and within the Progreso Village neighborhood. The city refurbished the water tower in 2018 with an innovative and bold painting scheme created by a local artist. The American Water Works Association created this award to recognize and preserve the American, Canadian, and Mexican award landmarks at least 50 years old that have had a direct and significant relationship with water supply, treatment, distribution, or technological development. We, the American Water Works Association, is pleased to present this award plaque that will be mounted at the site of the water tower. In addition, the American Water Works Association representatives present the certificate of designation to acknowledge the city's long dedication to maintaining and operating this important and historic water landmark.
Very nice. Where are we going to put that? At the base, at the base of the water tower, most likely, right?
Quite possibly, yes, sir.
Correct.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That's great. Let me get down there and stand with you.
And Steve,
Would you like to
Steve
join us?
Hilbert, yes.
That's got to be heavy.
About 35 pounds.
Hold it, yes. You gonna help me?
Step forward.
Yeah, I will, 1 second.
Podium.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. He's heavy, right?
All right, everybody right here. 1, 2. Got it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh.
Thank you. That's very nice of you. We really appreciate that, and recognizing the city of Fort Lauderdale on that. And we'll place it in a location where everyone can see it at the base of our water tower. So thank you so much. Okay, at this point in our meeting, we move on to what's called consent agenda items. And normally what happens is that we vote on these consent agenda items all at once. However, if someone from the commission wishes to pull an item to speak about it and vote on it separately, this is the time in which I ask each member of the commission if they want to pull an item. And then if you came here to speak on a consent agenda item, that would be the time for you to stand up and speak. I'll call upon you. If the commissioners have not pulled your item, I will still call upon you, and you have the opportunity to speak before we vote on it. So, Commissioner Herbst, do you have any items you wish to pull? None. Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
None, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
None.
Commissioner Sturman?
Two. I'll start with CM2, the one that was revised,
CM2
and CR3.
and CR3. So no one has asked to speak on any of those. So other than CM2 and CR3, do I hear a motion to approve those items?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman.
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst, Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and those consent agenda items are now approved. If you're here on any of those items, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Otherwise, your item has now been approved. CM2, Commissioner.
Yeah, that would be Carl, or who would that be on CM2?
That's you.
Yes, that would be Carl.
Oh, Carl, okay.
Oh,
The watch party?
well, I guess it was revised, and it was handed to me, but just very quick question. Do you know the dates and locations that's going to be? That's all.
Well, the ideal location would be at the arena if they're playing locally.
Well, yeah, but I don't think that these are Panther-sponsored events per se. I think these are in third party. If I'm
We
not
have
mistaken.
Mr. Panther here.
Yeah, he's coming.
Mayor, Commissioner, yeah, I was revising this with the Florida Panthers today. Obviously, we didn't know because of the schedule for round 3. They are hopefully game 2, game 5, and game 7. They want us to just put a potential street closure at place. I'm doing a final walkthrough with them in front of Revolution Live backyard tomorrow for our street closure on 3rd for the watch parties.
This is all going to be west of the tracks from Marshy Village, right?
Correct.
That's District 2.
Yeah, we're going to be on 3rd, right in between 2nd and Broward.
Okay, that's all.
Backyard and Revolution
Correct. So we did the same thing last year for it. I wish I had more information. I wish we knew in advance, but playoffs.
But what you're doing is
playoffs.
you're accommodating what you might need.
Yes, all we're going to do is the same MOT plans that are set forward with all my events. We're going to do inside backyard, and hopefully on the street, I will have final confirmation from the Florida Panthers by tomorrow, 4 o'clock.
Oh, that's all. I'm okay to move. Unless
Would you like to
your district.
Would you like to move the item?
Well, I could let the vice mayor.
No, let you do it. Go Cats. Go ahead.
Okay, I so moved the.
Okay.
You can second.
It's been
Second.
Moved, it's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll on CM2.
Vice Mayor Glassman,
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman,
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman,
Go Cats, yes.
Commissioner
Thank you, guys.
Herbst,
Go, okay.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes, and that item is now approved. CR3, Commissioner.
Ben, if you could just come up for a second. Or Milash, either way. I'm just pulling it for once, and I told Ben this ahead of time. Just while this is for the Lauderdale Trail, correct?
Yeah.
That's actually U.S. DOT. The only reason I'm pulling it, and Ben was going to do this.
The department, so Parks Bond allocated about $5 million for the Lauderdale Trail, and there are 4 active efforts that we are pursuing. The first one is extension of the downtown mobility hub to Carter Park. Our plans are 90%, and this is design that should be completed in July of this year, and this is exactly the grant that we're applying for construction. We had public meetings associated with this segment, and they went well. They were at about October of last year, and the feedback was good. The second one is Flagler Greenway to Holiday Park, and design plans are also at 90%. That design also should be completed in about July of this year, and then we expect to issue solicitation and start construction either at the end of this year or beginning of 2025. The third one is Downtown Mobility Hub extension. We are using some savings from the original Mobility Hub project. It's about $220,000, and we're extending Mobility Hub North by another block. From Northwest 4th to Northwest 5th. And that design is completed. The Metropolitan Planning Organization, they are actually reviewing our solicitation documents for construction, and then we'll be pursuing construction. Finally, Holiday Park to George English Park. There was a grant that we received from Department of Environmental Protection. It was about $400,000 with the $400,000 of city match. And our grantor actually is reviewing that scope of work, and then we'll be hiring designer, finalizing those design plans, and then pursuing construction.
Thank you. That's it.
Milos, I have one question.
Go ahead.
Thank you. When do you anticipate that we will know whether or not we're going to have to provide the 20% local match?
So the grant application is due by June 17. They did not provide a date as to when we'll hear back from them. They provided a link that we will have to check once in a while to determine whether or not we are awarded, and at that time we would know also whether we would need a 20% match or not. Our hope is that we do not need to provide match.
Right, so within the next month.
We hope so.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay, anyone else have any questions with regard to CR3? There being none, would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Okay, it's been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, delegating authority to the city manager to submit a grant application in the amount of up to $15 million to the United States Department of Transportation for the Active Transportation Infrastructure Investment Program grant for the Lauderdale Trail Construction Initiatives, delegating authority to the city manager to execute any and all documents necessary or incidental to the grant application, providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst? Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and CR3 is now approved. All right, so we're going to take up one of the walk-ons, which is the with regard to the restaurant. This is the, hold on a second. I have to get my language here. Well, I guess I don't have the language. All right, anyway, this is with regard to, is this it? Okay, thank you. This is a walk-on motion for discussion, City Commission request for review, site plan level 2 for a restaurant with outdoor dining at 300 South Andrews Avenue, case number UDP S23056. This is, staff recommends the City Commission consider review of a proposed site plan level 2 development application for a restaurant and outdoor dining for the Sweetwater's Restaurant, and to determine whether to set a de novo hearing to review the application. Keep in mind that what the Commission will be doing here is not to have any sort of evidentiary hearing with regard to the application, but to decide whether they're going to have what they call a de novo hearing. So before we begin, I'd like to bring up Christopher Cooper. Where is he? And if you could please give us a little bit of understanding as to why are all these people here in the audience with regard to this? I think there's some concern that the original agreement is different than what we're going to be voting on. Sure. Is it a much bigger footprint than what we originally approved? I want you to assuage all the fears that people have come here tonight for, and let's end up the meeting with happy people, okay?
Sure. Okay, right. We'll do our best. So the restaurant itself, this is a site plan application at Hazinga Park for a restaurant that is located in the southeast corner of the park. It has a structure that's about 7,000 square feet, and then it has outdoor dining to the north and to the south. So
7,000 square feet is the footprint of the proposed restaurant?
Right, of the actually enclosed structure. Now there is outdoor dining to the north and to the south that does add some square footage to that. So that's really the point of contention, is there's a section of the agreement, the interlocal agreement that was entered into between the Commission and the DDA for the development of the site that talks about the rezoning of the site once the park is, I think, closer to completion. So what that says is that once at the time that the rezoning is appropriate, that the park itself, Hazinga Park, the plaza, will be rezoned to the park zoning district, except for the footprint of the restaurant and outdoor dining of approximately 7,500 square feet. So basically the way I read it is what it's saying is that once that footprint of the restaurant is established, there should be about 7,500 square feet removed from what the park zoning will be. That will stay RAC CC. So there's some contention because.
I'm sorry, Chris, could I just stop right there just for clarity? So the DDA had agreed to, as part of this overall comprehensive agreement, to rezone that property from its existing commercial use, which could be condo towers, all kinds of fun stuff, right?
Unlimited height, yeah.
So the park is not really a park yet, right?
It's not a park. So I think it's important that everybody understand that. That is not a park. It looks like a park, it walks like a park, it quacks like a park, but it's not a park. We're trying to get it to a park, and as part of our collaborative partnership with the DDA, they have agreed to rezone it. Right now, technically, they could sell it, and you could wind up with another 45-story tower sitting right next to you. So part of what we've been trying to accomplish holistically here is to get that dedicated in perpetuity as a park. But if I understand this correctly, that doesn't happen until all this is done. Is that correct?
Right. And so the agreement contemplates Hazinga Plaza. So the portion of the restaurant and outdoor dining that's within Hazinga Plaza is approximately 7,500 square feet. It's a little bit more, less than 8,000. There's a portion of outdoor dining that's actually on the Riverwalk Plaza, which will have to go through approvals from Riverwalk in the city, but it's part of this application that is outside Hazinga Plaza. So the contention is that that should also be counted in this 7,500 square foot number that's in the agreement.
Okay, so what exactly has been the change that the folks here tonight think is happening that is infringing upon the original footprint that was agreed to?
Yeah, so I don't want to speak for everybody, but what I've heard from the folks that have expressed these concerns is that they believe the interlocal agreement limits the amount of restaurant to 7,500 square feet, or approximately 7,500 square feet.
And what is the actual footprint then?
If you count what's on Hazinga Plaza and on Riverwalk, it's, I think, approximately 9,800 square feet.
So that's the outdoor dining portion.
But the agreement, the only mention of a square footage limitation or mention of square footage for the restaurant in the agreement is the section that talks about what will be left out of the rezoning to parks. So some of what we hear is they believe that actually placed a limitation on the size of the restaurant. The way I've read it and talked to Tom Ansbro's office is that actually only talks about the portion of Hazinga Plaza that won't be rezoned to parks.
So, Tom,
I can.
As we look at the original agreement with the developer, with the DDA, the footprint of the restaurant, has that changed at all?
It's been presented for the first time, as far as I understand. What was presented to you when you entered into the agreement with the DDA was the carve-out for the area that would not be rezoned to park. That's the provision we're talking about, the 7,500 square feet.
Right, that hasn't changed.
That has not changed.
Okay, so, but they want outdoor dining, and does that expand the use of the area? And is that going to be part of the park, or is that part of the restaurant?
I think the north part is outdoor dining, and that's within the area that will not be rezoned to park. The south is part of
Riverwalk.
Part of Riverwalk, and part of it is on the property where the restaurant will be.
So explain, Chris, so the outdoor dining, the patio dining and all that, that's still going to be included in the restaurant area, or is that going to be part of the rezoned park boundary?
So the outdoor dining that pushes this over 7,500 square feet thereabouts is actually on Riverwalk. The agreement only talks about Hazinga Plaza.
Okay. So is there an encroachment in the park area beyond the 7,500 square feet with the outdoor dining, or is there any outdoor dining on the...
There is outdoor dining within Hazinga Plaza. The restaurant is approximately 7,730 square feet, including the outdoor dining that's within Hazinga Plaza.
Okay, so instead of a 7,500 square feet, it's 77.
Right, but the agreement says approximately 7,500 square feet.
Okay, that 200 extra square feet, that's one of the two outdoor dining. That's the northern outdoor dining, correct?
It is, but remember, this agreement contemplates, in this section of the agreement, only talks about Hazinga Plaza, and it talks about what portion of Hazinga Plaza will be left out of the park's rezoning. The portion that is south of the restaurant is outside of Hazinga Plaza. It's on Riverwalk.
Okay. So that extra outdoor dining will be on Riverwalk.
So what you're left with, Oh, I don't mean to step on you. Do you mind if I
Go right ahead.
jump in? Okay, so what you're left with, just to get so we're clear, 7,500 feet is under air. And like the restaurant itself, does that include?
About 7,000.
What?
Yeah, about 7,000 is the footprint.
Oh, am I mistaken?
About 6,100 square feet is the footprint.
Okay, and how much with the outdoor dining? 7,700?
So within Hazinga Plaza, the total footprint, including outdoor dining, is about 7,700 square feet. There's an additional 2,100 square feet of outdoor dining, but that's located on the Riverwalk to the south of Hazinga Plaza.
Actually, something just popped into my head as you're talking, and I mean, I was going to wait for the speakers to give my opinion. I will give my opinion later on, but something. So it's not my biggest concern. We had spoken about that. I spoke to the neighbors several times. The DDA was kind enough to meet with me, Tom, and my concern was the outdoor dining on the south end that goes through onto the Riverwalk. Now, it's not going to be impinging upon the walkway itself, and that was my big concern. I didn't want it to be like Solis, where it's going to further and further. So that's not going to be part of the walkable space, correct?
Correct. It's a
But
bit
something
elevated.
came up. Riverwalk, I just realized this. First of all, in order to have an outdoor dining, you can't make this park space, so that's by definition a cutout from the park. And when you cut out this park, the rest of it will be designated park, the rest of it will be deed restricted, and the restaurant will be separate from that. Some of the outdoor dining is going to be on Riverwalk, Dean. Is that for park space? Is that allowed?
So that's not a park. That's also zoned RAC CC.
Okay.
The whole area there is RAC CC. So none of it's designated park at this point in time. That's part of what's contemplated going forward. The city actually owns Riverwalk, so that's something if the city wanted to entertain at a future point, we could look at rezoning Riverwalk itself. But that's outside of the Hazinga
Oh, so
Plaza.
Riverwalk is not zoned as a park at this particular
It's not
point?
zoned as a park.
Okay.
Nope.
But so in the end of the day, I think, as Commissioner Herbst pointed out, this was the deal that was made. They're allowed to build a restaurant, but they've also conceded to allowing the rest of the site to be designated park space.
Correct.
Okay.
And the proposal before you is generally consistent with the exhibit that was attached to the interlocal agreement that showed the park and the outdoor dining and the restaurant feature.
Got it. Okay, so there are a number of people who have signed up to speak, so I'm going to give everyone just 2 minutes. If you could please try to confine your comments to the 2 minutes and be concise. So I'll name 3 people at a time so you'll know you're to be prepared when I call you up. The first person is going to be Charlie Ladd. Jenny Morahone. Let's do Jenny Morahone first, and then Charlie Ladd, and then Eric Uberman.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. It sure presents a point of pride on behalf of the DDA and the team, and especially knowing the hard work that your commission, prior commissions before you made in really establishing the vision for the Riverwalk District and activating our public spaces, creating this vibrant experience along the water's edge. So knowing that we've worked probably the last 4 years since before COVID, engaging with national experts, looking at precedents from around the country, bringing that back here, coming up with a creative public, private, and philanthropic partnership where over 100 specific donors have invested more than $5.4 million in private funds, DDA contributing another third, and of course with the city's partnership, bringing this new park project to fruition. I just want to point out 4 points that were negotiated last January, so a year and a half ago when the interlocal was established or presented to you all and then ultimately approved last summer. The first one, in no particular order, was getting Riverwalk sign-off, and that was accomplished last summer. So again, the site plan that was presented last year is consistent with what we have here today, and we work closely with Gina and her board to get that. The second aspect was about noise. And as you'll hear from probably Charlie and some others, we were very diligent in mitigating any potential impacts regarding noise from the restaurant use in our lease agreement. And we'll go over some of those specifics, but what's important to note is unlike private developments where there's really no one to turn to if there were ever to be a noise issue, as a public agency, the DDA stands ready to enforce the aspects of the noise details in the lease agreement. The third aspect was rezoning. We already touched on that. And the fourth was a requirement to perform a traffic study, which we did as part of our DRC submittal. And we have had over 100 meetings in the past 4 years with the public, including probably a half dozen or more specific to the traffic operations on First Avenue with all the adjacent property owners, and followed through with.
Called up for a de novo review of this application.
I'm going to rely on Dwayne to tell me that. I think there's 4 points, Dwayne.
The man behind the curtain. I'm going to ask you, Wayne, if you can answer the question first. That's a hazardous area. You can't sit there. Those can come off. Those can come off.
Good evening, Commission. Dwayne Spence, Deputy City Attorney. In accordance with 47-26A2, there are 2 criteria that you need to determine if you are going to set this for de novo hearing. The first is that the new project is in an area which, due to the characteristics of the project and the surrounding area, requires additional review in order to ensure that the development standards and criteria have been met. And the second is to ensure that the area surrounding the development is protected from the impacts of the development.
Okay.
You need both or one of them?
Both. Both.
For the record, both or one of them?
Both.
Okay.
So it's whether or not they met the standards, the building standards, and they've addressed the impact to the area. Those are the 2 things. Mr. Ladd.
Good evening, Commissioner and Mayors. I'm Charlie Ladd. Many of you probably know me too well for too many meetings. I'm a board member of the Downtown Development Authority appointed by you, and I'm this year's chairman. Obviously we could talk about this ad infinitum, but just a couple of points. The DDA staff has done a tremendous job to resurrect this park as something special. And the DDA board has made the commitment to take a property that I don't think we would ever do it, but we could turn around and build a double tower there with 6 restaurants. But that's not who we are. We want to do something special for the city, and we want to provide an asset. And we've done that. We've done that, and we feel strongly, and we've set up a revenue stream where we can take care of this park and continue to make it special. I've heard from residents that are hell-bent against this, and I've heard from residents in the same building that realize, at least share my view, that this will ultimately be a positive for them. In the end, if you, as a commission, aren't comfortable with this, the alternative is not to do this park. And this is a park we've raised the money for. The foundation's raised over $5 million. The DDA has raised $5 million. And you've committed $5 million. The site plan's approved. We got a great restaurant that's a good citizen, as exhibited in Miami for the last 40 years. And we want to move forward, and we hope that you move forward with us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Eric Uberman, followed by Mark Lawner. You pass? Okay. You're Eric? No, you're Mark. You're Mark. You're Eric.
I'm Eric.
Hi. So Eric, followed by John Millers. You're just here to talk in case you have questions, or you want to? Okay. Okay, very good. Mark.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Commissioners, we respectfully request that the mayor and the commissioners review the proposed restaurant project for a number of reasons, some of which have been talked about, but the size and the scale of the restaurant and its footprint, but I haven't heard anyone address the height of the restaurant. Yes, everyone says that there will be an encroachment on the Riverwalk for outdoor seating, and I think that should be reviewed as well. Impact on the traffic and street park of the traffic and the impact, not a study done by the restaurant group itself. Noise pollution. Is there going to be a rooftop bar? The issue of construction of the restaurant. there needs to be a staging area. Are we going to use the park and the green space for the staging area, or the street, which has no room at all for a staging area? Folks, there's an encroachment on the green area, the green space, which I know all of you and the city of Fort Lauderdale wants more green space, not less. This footprint, I don't believe is necessary. There are plenty of restaurants. But something that I wasn't even thinking about, but I have to say, for someone to come before this commission and say, hey, this restaurant is only this size, and if you don't approve it, there's always the possibility we could put up a tower. What? What? That's a threat? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Do we have an idea? Can someone tell us how many feet tall this the proposed structure is going to be? Jenny, do you have any information regarding the height of this proposed structure?
I understand it's like 3 feet, correct?
Yes,
3 stories.
yes. So it's a 3-level, but the center level is a mezzanine with just bathrooms and back of house. So it's 2 dining levels, the ground floor, the mezzanine with bathrooms and back of house, and then the upper floor is enclosed with a small outdoor area. So 2 levels of dining. There's not a rooftop bar. The lease does not allow a bar outside as well. Total height, but it is certainly less than 50 feet with the levels all included.
Any music on that top floor?
I'm sorry?
Any amplified music on the top floor?
No amplified music whatsoever outside.
Okay, okay.
No DJ, no live music. The hours are limited till 10 p.m. for music on weekdays, 11 p.m. on weekends, and that was consistent with the interlocal agreement.
John Millage, followed by Jeffrey Shirkus, followed by Philip Klein.
Thank you, Mayor. John Millage, General Counsel, Downtown Development Authority. I think it's fitting that we're in the museum today. The DDA donated this land for the museum.
Thank you.
The DDA donated the land for the library. DDA condemned the land for the Performing Arts Center Authority and gave that to the PACA. And as mentioned here, we want to do the same thing with the park. So in all the years that I've represented the DDA, I never thought that they would make the commitment that was discussed earlier about really in I think one of the emails said this is a land grab. So let's just kind of deal with that issue. So under this interlocal agreement, the DDA in perpetuity agrees that this is going to be a park for all time for use of the public, open for the public. Under this agreement, the city pays zero for that land value, nothing. What you pay for is a portion, not even the majority of it, but 1/3 of the capital cost for the park. Capital construction, and that's it. That's your construction. So if you really think about this agreement, city did really an excellent job in negotiating this in terms of, for that capital support, getting the DDA really the most valuable land in all of downtown. RAC, CC, yes, it's true. It could be developed with towers. Again, the board doesn't want to do that. And so moving forward, they want to do a project that's dedicated in perpetuity, less the restaurant. Everything that's been done, and I assure you that everything that's been done so far in accordance with the agreement. We gave you an exhibit when we started showing you where the agreement, where the restaurant was going to go, that we were going to have outside dining on the Riverwalk, that we were going to do a rezoning of approximately 7,500 of our property, because we're not rezoning yours, we're rezoning ours. So we said we'll rezone our property, 7,500 square foot plus or minus, and we're right in that range here. I would point out to you that there's a whole nother stage left in this, Mayor, is that you have to do the rezoning. So we have to come back. If there's any discrepancies, we can work that out, because you have the control of that. You're going to rezone this parkland, and we have to come back and make sure everything matches up. So there's a whole nother stage. This is not the last bite at the apple. And I think it was mentioned earlier, and I'm going to reemphasize it. You told us as part of the process, Commissioner Sturman, to go They had concerns about Riverwalk. We met with them. We remember the equipment. We had to deal with them. And we had their full endorsement, to do the outdoor dining and not interfere with any of the walkways. So they've signed on to it. And they are very protective of Riverwalk, as you know, which they have been over the years and have done a great job. So with that, I can tell you from my standpoint, we've complied with this agreement in spirit and the legality of it, what's written. And we'd ask you to move forward, and we'll come back at the rezoning, and again, come before you and make sure that everything, every T is crossed and I's dotted, and we'll get this done. Thank you so much.
Okay, great, thank you. Jeffrey Cherkas, followed by Philip Klein, followed by Michael McMullen.
Good evening, Commission. Would the concerned citizens here concerned about this issue please stand up so the Commission can see how many of you there are? I believe it's 3/4 of your audience. Thank you. Thank you all. There are so many things I could speak to you tonight on, but obviously I don't have time to do that. You won't grant me the time that it would require to do that. So I'm just going to carve out a little piece and allow others to speak on other pieces. I'm going to focus on the traffic study, which was an integral part of our concern as citizen neighbors. The DDA has hired a consultant to do a traffic study, and it has shown, we saw the final report last week, that the valet operation is feasible without significant impact on the community at large or adjoining properties. Nevertheless, at those recent stakeholder meetings that we were all attending, it was very apparent that there remain very significant issues that are as yet unresolved that will cause severe congestion on Southeast First Avenue. The valet operation for this restaurant is projected to generate over 300 daily round trips on Southeast First Avenue. They'll be clumped at mealtimes, yet the valet study apportions these ratably across 15 hours equally, which is not what's going to happen. It's going to overwhelm the 3 valet spaces that are carved out in the right-of-way to service this valet operation on Southeast First Avenue. The study does not consider rideshare drop-off or pickup, despite the fact that they only consider that 40% of the customers will use valet. The study does not consider that driver drop-off and pickup at the restaurant front door by self-parking drivers will occur, increasing the traffic on Southeast First Avenue. The study does not consider that self-parkers will wander down Southeast First Avenue. And last and important point, the study deems that the current operations in the cul-de-sac are bad behavior by vendors servicing Las Olas River House, and intends to use enforcement to correct this bad behavior. Well, what is this bad behavior? This bad behavior is a stack of trucks waiting, queuing to access River House receiving area. We received 5,000 packages 5 years ago and 53,000 packages at River House at the close of 2023. That's only going to increase. Everyone knows that's going to increase. We service 70 drive-up vendors, a minimum of 70 drive-up vendors that register and come into our building every day, sometimes as many as 100. This is only going to increase, and it's going to contend for available use of the cul-de-sac with drivers that exit from the valet operation. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Philip Klein, followed by Michael McMullen, followed by Greg Bruton. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. The concern that I think most people here have, and this is a small fraction of the concerned citizens, these are just the people we were able to let know about this meeting on very short notice, is this is a massive, massive structure across the street from a residential area. There are approximately 1,000 residents between the River House and 100 Los Olas across the street, plus the Hyatt Centric Hotel on that same street. It's a massive 3-story structure. I challenge you to tell me another residential area that has a 3-story restaurant across the street. This is unheard of. But I'm not going to argue all the aspects of it right now. I just am here to focus your attention on trying to get you, the commissioners, to have the DDA honor the agreement that it made with you last year. The interlocal agreement is clear, and the agreement of the DDA was that it would devote the entirety of the park to a public use in perpetuity, except only approximately a 7,500 square foot footprint for the restaurant. That's what the interlocal agreement says. It's crystal clear. There's no debate about it. That's what the interlocal says. The entirety of the park, green space, and we need more green space in downtown, not less. All of the park is supposed to be devoted to the public use in perpetuity, except only 7,500 square feet. The DDA has carved out, you can look on the tax assessor's parcel map, they've actually already carved out a new parcel of approximately 11,500 square feet for itself, within which the restaurant will be located. They've grabbed approximately 4,000 square feet of the park more than what the interlocal agreement allows.
You're saying that that it increased, that the footprint increased from 7,500 to 11,500?
Yes. If you go on the tax assessor's site right tomorrow, you'll see that back in 2 weeks after the interlocal agreement was signed last year in August, 2 weeks later, the DDA recorded a new parcel, a carve-out for themselves, that is where the restaurant will be located. And if you measure the size of it, and I think I got it from Tom and Chris Cooper's office the other day, it measures about 11,500
Well, let's
square feet.
verify that. Chris, where are you? Chris?
And all I ask is that the commission require the DDA to live by the agreement.
Well,
and
let's
not-
see. Let's
Yeah.
corroborate what you're saying.
All right.
Yeah, I don't have it. I just looked at the property appraiser now, so I would ask DDA to answer that question. if
All
they
right.
have that
So,
information.
John Village, who's the attorney for the DDA, can you respond to that claim?
So the agreement itself says the DDA agrees and covenants in perpetuity to maintain the Hazinga Park, less than accepting the restaurant use as a publicly accessible park in accordance with the plans on Exhibit 1A. So we've done that. And we've got to record a covenant equivalent to that. It doesn't talk about 7,500. The 7,500 is only related to the rezoning of the land that we own, which is 7,500 is the footprint in the outdoor dining,
Right.
not the Riverwalk.
Right.
So the document that was filed, and this document says that we have to cooperate with the city staff, which we did. Basically, the footprint meanders around. It kind of meanders. So they squared it off. So what he's saying is, because it's squared off with this covenant, that somehow we're occupying more space than we are. We're not. It's just, for purposes of filing this covenant, it was squared off. And so that's what I was alluding to with the rezoning. At the rezoning point, if there's any discrepancies that you all want to reduce this, rather than have a box, so it's exactly the 7,500, we can work on that. But in terms of the ease of filing a document, there's no nefarious activity to try to expand this. It was just to put the area and then go through the process. Because as you know, when you go through the process, the buildings move and they shift and whatnot. But
So you're saying that the 7,500 square foot footprint is not changing, but
No.
because the perimeter does not have a regular shape, when you square it off, it increases it to 11,000.
Yeah, we would have had a surveyor,
Come on, folks.
We had a surveyor kind of meander all around and do that. It was just a squared off box for purposes of the covenant and restriction. That's what was done. It wasn't nefarious. We worked with the staff on it, and that was the decision at that time. So it wasn't trying to make it any bigger than it is. And so that.
So
and
we can agree, though, that the footprint of the restaurant is going to be about 7,700 square feet, correct?
with the outdoor dining on the DDA property,
Right.
correct?
Okay. And the rest is not going to be the rest of the site will be designated parkland. Is
That's
that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Yes.
And these plans that are in the site plan as part of this DRC application further state that limitation. And what you would be approving with this site plan is that limit, 7,700 square feet or what have you. It's not the 11,000, it's not the squared off. So the
Okay.
DRC guides the total square footage of the restaurant use.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. You got 10 seconds.
So I've been looking into this for quite some time. Tom Ansbro has been very helpful. Tom forwarded to me the other day an email from Michael Donaldson of the city, because I've been inquiring what is the size of the plat that the DDA carved out for itself. And according to Michael Donaldson of the city, it's 11,471 square feet. So that's what they've carved out. Now, they're saying they can go back possibly and adjust it, but right now, today, as we speak today, it's just about 11,500 square feet, which is 4,000 square feet more than the interlocal agreement requires. And I would just want to add one other thing for context, if you don't mind. When you do actually, the interlocal agreement says that the footprint of the restaurant, inclusive of outdoor dining, if you read the interlocal, inclusive of outdoor, will be approximately 7,500 square feet. If you add up mathematically the footage of the physical restaurant, the adjoining outdoor dining patio, 2 outdoor dining areas. Now, it's been said here incorrectly, with respect incorrectly, that the entirety of the south dining area is on the Riverwalk. That is not true. The south dining area is about 2,100 square feet. About 600 square feet of that is in the park. About 1,500 square feet is on the Riverwalk. When you add up the 600 square feet that is in the southern dining area that is part of the park, the building itself, call it 7,000-ish. Then there's another 1,600 square foot dining area north in the park. Outdoor dining. There's 2 outdoor dinings. It adds up, give or take, 9,100
All right, so
square feet.
we'll have to true that up. We'll have to
Yes.
figure that out.
Yes.
Okay, all
And
right.
so all I'm
We
asking
get
is that
it.
the commission honor the agreement with the DDA and vice
All right.
versa. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Michael McMullen, followed by Greg Bruton, followed by Arthur Rice.
Hello. So, commissioners and mayor, I guess as residents and taxpayers here, we trust you guys to look out for our best interest. And part of that is quality of life for us. And I think that most of us are looking for a review of this process. We're not saying cancel it. We're looking for a review, because there seems to be a lot of discrepancies in this. And hopefully you'll be able to do this. I've been coming to Fort Lauderdale for 8 years, 4 years as a full-time Floridian, and I came from
Which building
Providence.
do you live in? Which building do you live in?
I live in Water Garden.
Water Garden, okay.
But I came from Providence, Rhode Island.
I could tell.
And you can. What, my accent?
I'm from Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I came from a place called Water Place, and I moved to Water Garden. We had the same thing. Thank God I was on the other side of the condo. The city and the state built this restaurant. The first year was wonderful, and then it progressively got worse. They had a rooftop area, and they just couldn't resist. It was loud, 10 o'clock to 2 a.m. The music pounded. They promised that would never happen, but they just went for review after review. They got variance after variance. I went to a meeting yesterday, saw some of the plans. The first 2 years I came down here, I spent winters at the River House. They're screwed if this goes through. They're not going to get any deliveries. And 100 Los Olas, I don't even know how you're going to park your car. It's just that bad.
Okay.
So we need you guys to look out for us. You got thousands of voters, thousands of taxpayers. We trust you. We need you to look out for us.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So,
Now, Winter Garden, you're the ones who had that, the boiled water notice for, I feel sorry for you. You guys had that boiled water notice for, yeah.
So, the problem is that we've been spoiled over these many years in thinking that that's a park, right? It's been an open space. So that's the challenge we have here tonight, that you have given us that area as an open space where people walk their dogs and walk their baby carriages and walk themselves, and now you're saying, well, we want a piece of that back and we want to build a restaurant, and we'll give you the rest permanently. So the question is, where do we move that line? And so let us continue to have that discussion here. Mr. Bruton.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Greg Bruton, I'm with the DDA. And maybe I never thought in my wildest dreams that I would become the resident historian when it comes to activities within the downtown.
Well, when you're old enough, you become
now that
that
I'm in
way.
my 70s, I can relate to how we got to where we are. And one of the things I do want to bring to everyone's attention is that the downtown was carefully land used and planned for it to be an area for active downtown uses. A downtown that would be active for all residents in Fort Lauderdale. A downtown that at one point had Burdines, McCory's, and Royal Castle as the only activity within
Good
the
old
downtown
days.
area. The good old days, right? So now we transition to creating land use amendments, zoning categories with unlimited height, unlimited parking, and quite honestly, some of the open space areas were, for a better part of our time, used for activities that no one here would be considered to be acceptable. So to have someone say that this downtown is a residential area is a bit of a reach. Residents are permitted, but we're talking about an area where you can live, work, and play, which all of these properties at one point in time were probably marketed for. And I applaud this commission, as well as other commissioners before you, to keep that vision. We grew up in a downtown that was basically nothing. And to be quite honest with you, at some point in time, it was segregated. I can reflect back in the 60s as a kid to have seen that. But now we're talking about Fort Lauderdale today and in the future. And that includes an inclusive development and activity for all of the residents of Fort Lauderdale and for its surrounding areas, as well as tourism. We're proud of what we've done so far. And if a restaurant, to talk about a 3-story restaurant in an area where there's unlimited height being overwhelming, is a bit of a reach in my opinion. It really is. And I'm not insensitive to the individuals who are opposed to what's going on there, but a part of the real vision is to have a vibrant downtown that everyone within this area, all citizens, can enjoy. And I think that's what we're talking about. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Arthur Rice. Arthur, are you here? Yeah. Followed by Mike Madfis, followed by Stan Eichelbaum.
My name is Arthur Rice, and I would like to just bring to the Commission's attention the following. First of all, the notion that the DDA is, in its benevolence, agreeing to have the park deeded permanently as a park is poppycock, because this land is 5 separate parcels. That's what comprises what we generally know as Hazinga Park. 3 of those parcels are owned by the city. 2 of the parcels are owned by the DDA, and they were given those parcels back in 1974. So the notion that they're doing something great for the city here is beyond, it's just not.
Well, I think what they were saying is that they could build, I don't know who owns which parcels. I thought DDA owned the whole thing, but assuming they don't, based on your representations, is my understanding they could still build on their parcels, correct?
Well, I don't think that they could build what they're talking about on those parcels. Whether they could build anything on the 2 parcels that they own, I don't know. But I, at my own cost, had a title search done to see how they came to have this property, and they don't. They only have 2 of the 5 parcels.
Okay.
3 of the. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that the notion that this is somehow going to vitalize or invigorate the downtown area is also nonsense. There are restaurants that are owned by locals, operated by locals, that employ local management, that are going out of business. We have plenty of restaurants. And another restaurant in downtown Fort Lauderdale is not going to do a whit to vitalize or invigorate the downtown area. That's just complete baloney. And second, or lastly, I just want to say that when I went by the park last night, there was a volleyball game in progress. Last week, there were kickball games. Every morning, that park is filled with people who are walking their dogs or just simply walking themselves to get some exercise. And the notion that we need more concrete in downtown Fort Lauderdale, I think, is just preposterous. Thank you.
Well, sir. Now, according to the DDA, they too believe in your vision of having more open space downtown, and that this confirms in perpetuity that that space that they own will be reserved as public park. So I don't think anyone disagrees with you on that score. They're just wanting to carve out part of their parcel for this restaurant.
May I suggest to the mayor?
Yes, sir.
That you might request the city attorney to look into how the DDA came to assemble these parcels of land, and whether there were any restrictions that came with these parcels back in 1974 when it was put together.
Okay, that's fair.
Yep. Thank you.
Michael Madfis. Michael, are you still here? Oh, different item?
They're putting a trailer park on there?
Okay. Is there a trailer park? That was last meeting. Okay.
John, Village, are they putting a trailer park on there?
No, that was that was last meeting. Yeah. Stan Eichelbaum, followed by Bob Latavier, followed by Melinda Bowker. Is there anyone else wishes to speak on this item? Those are the last 3 people. Hello, Stan.
Hi.
Long time.
It's been a while. What a surprise, a Tuesday night commission meeting with contention over development. Over past months, I've been in and led a number of community meetings and have watched escalating community anxiety, apprehension of where all is headed. You know the issues better than anyone: degreening, traffic navigation hell, construction staging mayhem, public safety concern, and others. I've also had the experience of organizing major entertainment complexes around the world, and it is so easy to rev up many about big new dining, drinking alternatives. Everyone loves a party. The devil is in the details, the realities. In recent weeks, in the meetings, downtown residents are realizing, questioning aggressively the resident livability impacts the project is likely to have, especially if an enlargement of the original project is permitted. The issues need further assessment and commission refinement. With appreciation for everybody's efforts, we are now, as a city, bridging the infamous definition of insanity. In traffic, we're recreating the new, now eternal mess of Southeast 4th Street that we live with and New River Drive. in other areas of the city. There are claims enforcement is the answer. We begged for enforcement for 2 decades. Once again, we're testing noise impact on proximate residential towers, albeit ambient. On degreening, we're trying to make the spectacular morning walk on a river walk go from passing a true-scale park to a backyard-level green space on a river walk. There's virtually no land left to correct our shortfalls. I also want to question an out-of-town restaurant, but I'm sort of fuming right now. I have been in front of commissions all over the world. I have spent a great share of my life on ethics activities in the development industry. And I heard stuff tonight I've never seen, I never wanted to see. I appreciate the concerns on stuff, but when we start out veering the subject to threats about that they could build towers, I'm sorry, but I have been part of forming DDAs. I've been involved with them with great efforts that have created results for the community. DDAs are formulated to eliminate blight and to enhance or solidify the residential and commercial community all the way around. Boards are supposed to take an oath. They're good citizens put on a board to, in fact, affect a better life for the entirety of the city. When we reduce it to the threats I've heard, that's bunk. I am so mad. I've never seen this in another city. That is not the subject of tonight at all. The subject of tonight is whether livability is impaired. That was the second thing you went to. It was a matter of whether this project needs further refinement. It is an entrustment by everybody in this room for you guys and woman, I'm sorry, I was not trying to miss.
She's one of the
to
guys.
go and legitimize, to refine it, to make everybody happy. That's what you're elected for, and we've talked through. This thing deserves a call-up right now. There are issues, again, it's the definition of insanity to have the level of problems in this project move ahead. We keep repeating ourselves over and over again in this city. And no, you do not come in threatening to build a tower if you're a credible person appointed in goodwill on behalf of citizenry. Thank you.
Thank you. Bo Latavere and Melinda Bowker. Is Bo here? Yes.
Good evening. I'm a resident of the River House, and I spent many years of my career managing hotels, most of which had valet parking, both for the hotel guests as well as the restaurant. After that, I spent 10 years as senior vice president of a valet parking company based in Atlanta, and we valet parked for hotels, coast to coast, and restaurants. And I have to tell you that the challenge that we are going to face here in this operation on a dead-end street with an intersection that has a light, but a light only affects one-way traffic. The other way is keep your fingers crossed. And it is just going, there's no turnaround. And not only is this a street-story restaurant, there's event space on the 3rd level. So imagine that you have a wedding for 100 guests, 200 guests. You have restaurants on 2 levels, outdoor dining. Imagine the traffic. There's no self-parking available, so you have either Uber, Lyft, or valet parking, all of which is going to clog up that street and clog up that the intersection. It is just, in my career, if I was at the valet company and somebody came to me and said, would you like to run this valet operation, I would respectfully decline. It's just a no-win situation. There's no parking available where these people can valet park. We have a nice restaurant, Eddie V's, on the other corner, and many evenings, Friday, Saturday evening, you cannot get in Los Olas Way because the valet is backed up. And that is only a restaurant, one-story restaurant, and no event space. I think that this really needs to be looked at a lot further.
Okay. All
Thank you
right,
very
you,
much.
sir. Thank you. Melinda Balker? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this item? You have to sign
Oh,
up.
geez. Yeah, no, this is going to be kind of a calmer one. So Melinda Balker, I'm president of the Downtown Fort Lauderdale Civic Association. I appreciate all the comments that I've heard tonight. I mean, it's very enlightening. But what I'm here to do is just reiterate where the downtown civic position was when this came up for a vote in January 2023, when the interlocal agreement came up for a vote, and then where we are today and what's transpired. Back in January 24, 2023, our board discussed this heavily. And I will say that our board is a 9-member board. We actually have board members who live in residences who are on the boards of residences adjacent to the park. So they were very familiar with the issue we were discussing. I guess one point that was very important for all of us, looking at the downtown big picture, was that when the agreement came to us in January from the DDA, making this a park in perpetuity, that was a big change, and that was a game changer. Just in December 22, the agreement said there was going to be a park for an additional 20 years. So keeping this green space in perpetuity was a game changer in our decision. Having said that, we did provide a letter to commission, and the points still stand. I'm going to provide the points just briefly, but I will say that the board of the Downtown Civic Association, as well as the presidents of both 100 East Las Olas, as well as the Las Olas River House, the 2 condos adjacent, have been meeting with the DDA on the issues specifically with regards to the traffic concerns on Southeast First Avenue. And what I will say is our biggest concern still, and why we are still engaging in this, is the specific traffic needs for that 200-foot dead-end area with the roundabout that all of these buildings and now the restaurant will use. Our point in the letter for that was just that Southeast First Avenue, traffic circulation on Dead End Road, Hazinga new restaurant vehicular traffic should not enter the roundabout at the south end of Southeast First Avenue. And we are still very willing to continue the discussions with DDA and the condos about how to resolve that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay. I think the Vice Mayor is the person who requested this item be heard, so I'll leave you to open the floor to discussion.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, I did file an intent to review this because I was hearing a lot of concern from residents and reading emails. But first I'd like to maybe ask if it's possible, Milos and Jenny, I want to just flesh out a little bit of these traffic issues that we're hearing about a lot as it relates to New River Drive East, Southeast First. What are you thinking? Do you see, and I just heard Melinda talk about the possibility of actually having those discussions continue, but do you see alternatives? Do you see something that we are able to work on that might be a solution?
So we also, I will point out, have Joaquin Vargas, the DDA's traffic consultant, who prepared multiple reports, and the new information that the residents got last week was actually continued analysis that we committed to providing after the original traffic study. What we found in the city's threshold to conduct a traffic study is when a development triggers 1,000 trips or more. This restaurant is only about 3/4 of that threshold, so it doesn't even hit that mark to require a traffic study. Nonetheless, we presented that. We also have a full valet analysis, and it's important to note that before the restaurant opens, the restaurant operator, in partnership with the DDA, will have to come before the city to execute a valet parking agreement. So that is where all the details of the number of runners, the garage that's being used will be laid out. So that's why when we say we will continue to have these discussions, and we've had probably a minimum of 6 specific meetings on the traffic circulation there, but we continue to be willing and ready to meet because This is a unique situation in our very vibrant downtown. We've used the word vibrant a million times, but I think when you have private property owners with equal rights to use the adjacent right-of-way, there must be a meeting of minds in terms of coordinated service delivery, trash management, valet operations, Uber, rideshare, pickup, drop-off. And I know, I won't speak for Milos, but coming from another city where you have to look at, intense development in a very high utilized area for, pedestrian movement and everything, it's going to require, we believe, some innovative, creative, and collaborative policy and enforcement regulations to guide what happens down on that cul-de-sac. So from the perspective of the DDA, this proposed restaurant does not trigger any thresholds for, increased traffic impact studies. We've carved out we've carved out a 66-foot long valet pickup and drop-off, which meets the minimum necessary requirements to have the queuing that does not back up within that corridor. And we recognize that it's a unique situation, which I believe is why the president of the Downtown Civic Association ended with, we continue to meet to discuss this. But at this point in time, there is nothing within the DRC regulations, there is nothing within the code, there is nothing within our site plan that we've presented in full transparency that would stop this site plan to be approved for this restaurant to move forward for this park project.
I just want to make sure, though, but can you assure us that the items that you mentioned in terms of creativity, flexibility, all of the thought that's going to have to go into the valet agreement, that's going to have to go into ways to relieve congestion, especially on those streets that I mentioned, that's going to happen? And what are the guarantees for that? And I could hear that from you, but I could also hear that from Milos as well. I want to make sure that all of that is really airtight, because to be honest, many of the things that we're hearing this evening, we have heard back in January of 2023. I mean, this did not just come out of the blue. This has been a long process. And all of these issues, whether it be the open space, whether it be what could be developed on the site, whether it could be the traffic congestion, whether it could be the noise, I feel confident about you assuring us that there is no going to be, like we heard, rooftop noise. And we've all been through that with other establishments downtown. We know what that issue is. And I feel sort of comfortable, and I want to see that ironclad in terms of any kind of agreements when this restaurant actually happens, that's not going to be an issue here. But I do know that other than, for me, the traffic issues, the congestion, how we are going to park people, those are still needing to be buttoned down. The other issues, as I've just mentioned, we have heard this for years now. We've been working on this how many years?
At least 4.
4 years, right?
But in earnest with the site plan for a good 2 years.
Good 2 years. I think in 22, 23, and then January of 23, I think we actually approved it, right?
Yes.
When we did the funding from the city side. So again, a lot of these, with all due respect to everyone in this room, a lot of this has been discussed up to this point, has it not?
It has, and I think to answer your question specifically in terms of what we can state is that a valet parking agreement still needs to be executed and recorded before the restaurant opens. That will take into account these, what I called unique or innovative, the intersection improvements that I know the residents want as well, and having to really advocate at the county level to improve the signalization at that intersection, to look at potentially Southeast First Avenue north of Las Olas and some of the, that section of the roadway for drop-off and pickup. So, I think today you're not approving a valet operations agreement. Right. You're approving a site plan, and because there is still the requirement to have that agreement come later, in addition with the rezoning, all of that can be tied in.
Okay, good. I also, if you could just clarify for me, because this is a little unclear. On the third level, is there anything about the third level that's going to be open air, in other words, in terms of ambient sound, noise, music? Will the third level be completely enclosed?
There is a small section of the third level, I have a specific dimension, that is open air. But what's important to note is when this building, and I'll get that dimension, when this restaurant building was designed, there's an entire parapet wall that is between the River House condos, Southeast First Avenue, and where that outdoor open seating is for the third level space upstairs. So it was intended, and there's also a cover. So when you talk about, a protection from any ambient noise, there was real thought put into how this building's being designed in that regard.
Thank you.
I just want to correct you on one thing. You said that tonight we're approving a site plan. We aren't approving a site plan.
Correct.
It's already been approved by staff. We're just determining whether or not we should call it up for commission review.
Thank you.
De novo hearing.
That's right.
Yes, and if I could just ask Chris Cooper a question, and I'll be finished. Thank you, Mayor. So, Chris, in terms of your work with the department, and I have been asking you a lot of questions about this project, and I've been forwarding you the questions that I've been receiving as well, and you're very familiar with the interlocal agreement between the city and the DDA. I would like you just to talk about any discrepancies that you see, or are you comfortable with the intent of the interlocal agreement? Are you comfortable with what we've discussed this evening in terms of the footprint of the restaurant? In other words, are there outstanding issues that you see, or do you feel that moving forward is meeting the intent of the ILA, and also any issues that might still come down the pike can be dealt with at that time in terms of the rezoning, in terms of the valet agreement, things like that?
Yeah, so I'll start with the DRC review and the ULDR requirements. If you read through the call-up, you'll see that we did a thorough review. The project as proposed does meet the requirements of the ULDR. Jenny mentioned the need for a traffic statement versus a traffic study. It's in the downtown core. Parking for non-residential is not required. They're offering valet. They'll have to come back for a valet agreement. So in terms of the actual compliance with the ULDR, yes, the project does meet the regulations within the ULDR. I think what Mr. Millage said about coming back, and when you do that sketch in legal and actually delineate the boundaries within the park area and what's going to be excluded from the park zoning district, you can shape that in a way that does only exclude the restaurant use areas. So you do have that parcel that was created, and that's because we needed a development site to tie the site plan approval to. But again, when you come back, you develop that sketch in legal, as Mr. Millage said, you can go back in and you can adjust those boundaries so that you really only exclude what's actually used as a restaurant and rezone the balance as park. So you will have an opportunity at that point to reflect on that part of the interlocal agreement and make sure that they are conforming with that requirement.
And when do you see the timeline for that happening?
So I would suggest that I don't think it's outlined in the interlocal agreement. I need to go back and look to see if there's a milestone moment at which that rezoning would need to take place. But I would think once that restaurant is under construction, you have your as-built, you have the precise areas where that is, where a surveyor can go out and perform a sketch in legal and actually delineate those boundaries. That would be the appropriate time to come back in and do that rezoning.
Thank you for that. And so then, therefore, city staff, as the mayor just said, did sign off on this.
Correct.
So there were no red flags. There was nothing that you thought needed further review. All comments were satisfied through DRC, through all of the departments.
They were, and we looked at a lot of the things that the neighbors were concerned about. We understand that First Avenue is a congested street. There's a lot of delivery, drop-off, and parking situations that happen there now that aren't necessarily code compliant, but we needed to look at those. We looked at their auto turn, where they looked at how vehicles could actually navigate that cul-de-sac and be able to make that U-turn at the end. Various types of vehicles, everything from sedans to fire trucks. And so we did make several comments, and we worked with them to make sure our comments were satisfied so that we could bring you a project that met the regulations of the ULDR.
Was there anything in particular in the ULDR that maybe gave you a little bit of pause, or was there any particular requirement that you felt maybe needed a little bit more discussion, or actually did have more discussion on your part, that took a little while to get to the point where you did sign off?
So we did go back with them, with the DDA, to look at those turning radius on the cul-de-sac and how those vehicle movements would take place to make sure that it was properly configured so that, again, so those various types of vehicles were able to navigate it in terms of what the ITE manual requires. So we talked to them about that. We talked to them about valet stand placement. We talked to them about some of the sidewalk configuration and how the restaurant itself interacts with the broader park, because the park redesign was part of an administrative review. So while we were doing the review on the restaurant, we were also looking at the broader park plan as well to make sure that those two things fit well together.
And you're fine with the connection between this project and also the Riverwalk itself and the uses on the Riverwalk as they relate to the uses on this site?
Yes,
No problem.
no problem.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Before you sit down, there was a gentleman came up and said that the DDA doesn't own all the real estate that's designated as park. Do you have a comment on that?
I don't. From what I saw, everything, it doesn't own, there's 2 parcels south of where the edge of the restaurant is that are owned by the city, and that's part of Riverwalk. Everything north to Las Olas is DDA. And then there's some right-of-way, along First that's
Sounds to
city
me
owned.
like there's small sections then that
There's
are
a
owned by
lot
the
of,
city?
there's several parcels. I think there were 3. I think they maybe made 4. Don't hold me to that number, but they did make that new parcel for the restaurant site.
So the lion's share of the site in question, does the DDA own that?
Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure. All right. Okay, anyone else have any questions? Start with Commissioner Herbst. Do you have any questions with regard to this? Commissioner Beasley Pittman.
No questions, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Sturman, this is your district.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Before we go on, you were shaking your head. I think you might have the answer to that question, Jeannie or Jenny or John. Do they? Who owns that? You look like you were shaking your head. Yes or no?
So this entire project, the park and the Riverwalk and the right-of-ways underneath the Andrews Avenue Bridge encompasses 3.1 acres. DDA owns 60% of that.
Okay.
Okay, that's the
60% of 3.1 acres?
That's correct.
And the city owns the rest?
Which is the Riverwalk, the parts of First Avenue that we're improving, yes, but mostly the Riverwalk.
Oh, I see. So the grassy area is owned by whom?
The DDA.
Okay.
Okay. First off, now I have a few minutes, right?
Take your time.
First of all, I want to thank everybody here, both the DDA and the neighborhood, for coming out on a Tuesday night. Huge public input, and win, lose, or draw, having a good public input is a healthy thing. I'll give the good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, the good and the bad, or at least those 2. When this came before us, there were 5 things that we asked, and I think the victory here was, John, when we negotiated it, we did not own the land. It did not necessarily become a park. It didn't, you did have a right to build whatever. It could be a welcome center, garage, whatever. But what we did get out of it is, number one, it was going to be zoned as a park. It cut out with the restaurant, but the rest of it zoned a park. Number 2, deed restricted as a park. So that way, going into the future, anything up but a park is now taken off the table. The other 3 things were not impinging upon Riverwalk, dealing with noise, and dealing with traffic. I've had numerous meetings with some residents, individuals, meeting with the leadership of some of the buildings. I've met with the DDA and some individuals and staff. We've met in legal several times. There is, I do like reimagining it. I do like, a lot of the effort, and I thank you for everything that you put into it, but there are some questions here. And before I begin, Tom, just to reiterate one more time, just that we're all using the same terms. This was called up by Steve so that we could call it up for a de novo hearing. Am I using the right terms?
No, that's not why I filed the intent to review it.
Or intent to review.
But not, it was not necessarily my intent to set a de novo hearing.
Okay.
I wanted to review it because I wanted to hear all the answers that we heard tonight. I wanted to discuss it.
Okay, so you called it up for review, and you brought it for review.
I filed an application with an intent to review, and then the next step would be, if the commission chose, to set a de novo hearing. Yes, but that,
okay.
yes.
So everybody understands what we're dealing with here. We're not opining upon the merits of the case itself. The question is simply, is there enough questions there that we should set a hearing at a later date to actually address some of these concerns? And I'm not saying that, it's good or bad. The question is there enough questions here to look further? And we've talked about a few things: the size and footprint of the building, the size and footprint when you add the outside dining. What happens with the outside dining going on the north end, the outside dining on the south end into Riverwalk, bleeding into Riverwalk, They mentioned about valet parking, the cutout, the capacity, the queuing lines that might or might not go into Las Olas. Noise was touched upon. I think they put a lot of effort into dealing with the noise. The square footage of the restaurant. And the one thing that was just touched upon briefly, but apparently was a big concern on the neighbors, was the cul-de-sac. What's going to happen with that cul-de-sac?
It's really a dead end.
Well, it's a dead end, but there is a cul-de-sac there, and the question is, something was brought out, who owns that land, where's the property line, what's going to happen? If it is cut off and chopped off, you take an arc out of that. You know, the concern was deliveries, trash pickup, maneuverability. It is a public street, it's not a private street, but does it impinge upon access? And I'm going to go back to the one thing, for me, that's the most concerning, is the outside dining along the Riverwalk. My concern is if you've gone to Las Olas and you look at when they allowed outside dining, and then you give a foot, they take a mile, and next thing you know, you don't even have room to walk along Las Olas because it keeps impinging upon the walkability. That being said, I did speak to the representatives at DDA, and that's apparently not going to be the case. It's the, if I'm not mistaken, the outside dining is not going to touch upon the Riverwalk, the walkability at all. But like I mentioned earlier, this is not to adjudicate this issue. It's just, are there enough questions to call up for a de novo hearing to bring it up at a later time to actually delve into these? And I represent this community. You guys are my neighbors. There are enough questions there. And I think, in my opinion, I think there is enough to warrant this to be called up for a de novo hearing. So I'll leave it at that.
So again, there are two standards that we follow in order to determine whether or not we should review the application. And so I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, so I would ask Dwayne if you could once again come before us and recite what the two standards are before we make any decision.
I have those for you, Mayor.
Do you have it?
First,
Okay.
the new project is in an area which, due to characteristics of the project...
Wait, slow down.
Okay. The new project is in an area which, due to characteristics of the project and surrounding area, requires additional review in order to ensure that development standards and criteria have been met. And two, to ensure that the area surrounding the development is protected from the impacts of the development.
Okay, so Chris Cooper told us that the development criteria have been met. That would be number one. And number two, that the impacts of the development have been addressed. And I guess that's what's the real issue here tonight in terms of traffic. The noise, I don't think that was the big issue because there's not going to be any outdoor entertainment or anything like that. But I think the big issue here, folks, is the traffic impact. And one of my staff members, my chief of staff, sent me a picture of the site, and you know, between the restaurant and the River House, those are the two buildings that tend to share the end of that street. And the question is, how are we going to facilitate the flow of traffic in and out of Southeast 1st Avenue? That's the real issue, right? That's the big issue that we've been talking about.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
That's one of the two big issues. Right?
So now a traffic study may not have been triggered because it doesn't, it's not intended to produce the number of cars necessary in order to reach that threshold. But for the sake of what our community is expecting from us, perhaps we need to secure a traffic study. Well, they did one. So people are always suspect that the results of a traffic study that are paid for by themselves. So, right? So I don't know. I think we should defer the item tonight before we agree to any decision on whether or not to bring this to de novo. And I think we should figure out what are the experts saying in terms of how we're going to facilitate traffic in this dead-end street. What do you think about that, Chris?
Yeah, so if I may, so this is contemplated in the interlocal agreement with the restaurant. It's in Section G. on page 7, and what that says is that the DDA shall do a traffic study that includes an analysis of trips, signalization, access, valet operations, and overall circulation of Southeast First Avenue south of Las Olas Boulevard prior to receiving a certificate of occupancy for the restaurant use. So you've already required this of them to do and created a milestone for which that needs to be completed. So, and I will remind you once again that the restaurant itself in the RAC CC does not have a parking requirement. It's a non-residential use in our downtown.
All that
right.
is,
So
we understand all of
okay,
that.
I just
We
wanted to make
understand
sure.
all of that.
Okay.
That's the way the rules were written.
Sure.
No parking requirement, but there's a reality here too. So, you know, just because the DDA is required to do a parking study, a traffic study rather, it doesn't mean they're going to come up with solutions. It just means they're going to do a study. If the study says, oh, this is going to be a nightmare, it's just, well, the study's done, what do we do? Right. So I think that there is a solution here, and I think that the traffic issue will be resolved. But I think for the purposes of satisfying the people that live in and around the area, I think they're entitled to see the results of an independent traffic study to see exactly how these vehicles are going to be able to negotiate a very narrow strip of roadway in an area that's already highly congested. So I'm not saying that we make a decision on de novo tonight.
But we have a 30-day window.
Well,
oh, it's a 60-day window.
What is it, Dwayne?
60, right? Okay, just go to the number, yeah.
Sure. So for the call, oh, do you want me to do this? Okay. For the call up, you have tonight's meeting and the next meeting. It's a 30-day window, but you can only call up during a meeting of the commission. So it's tonight or the next commission meeting, and then you have 60 days from that date to hold the hearing.
Yeah, but
you have to call it up between now and the next meeting.
I'm not sure this is going to get to the point where we need to call it up and have and do this all over again, because you've satisfied a lot of the questions that have been asked tonight. It does meet the requirements, the ULDR, Uniform Land Development Act. So those have been satisfied. Whether we like them or not, they satisfy the building and zoning requirements of the area. Also, I'm looking at this map, this aerial, and the area that the city owns are two long strips of land that basically lay on top of the Riverwalk. So you were correct, Jenny, when talking about that. Everything north of the Riverwalk is what's owned by the DDA, which is the lion's share. I can't put this on the screen, but anyway. So how long does it take to do a traffic study?
Mayor, I have a question before we... Okay, go ahead.
Let me get the answer to that question. Who's our traffic person here?
Well, I think what's important to note is we've conducted a traffic study. We conducted it last summer.
Button. Push the button. Press here.
We've conducted a traffic study.
Ah.
That's already been completed.
Right.
And then as part of the DRC process, that was submitted, that was reviewed by your Transportation and Mobility Department and signed off as part of the staff approval that you already referenced.
But Mayor, also if I may, and I've seen a lot of traffic studies in my time, they don't offer solutions to
That's
what
the
the
thing.
traffic
That's what
issue
I'm
is.
saying.
But we've already discussed the fact that we will work on solutions. You could have 1 million traffic studies and not one of them, they're just going to tell you what they think the conditions are. We know that the conditions are horrendous, and our goal is to find solutions.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why I
They're
asked...
studies, they're not solutions.
May I finish now?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. That's why I asked Jenny and Milos for what they are going to do to work on solutions. We're past traffic study. Traffic study, for me, everyone in this room could conduct a traffic study. It doesn't matter. As I said, we know what the conditions are. We know what the traffic studies say. And our goal is to fix it. Our goal is to find solutions. Another traffic study will not offer solutions. So I'm not in favor of that approach to this.
It's a point well taken. It's we understand the conditions. The question is how do we resolve the conditions?
And that's to come still, as we've just discussed.
Well, so I don't know if we're in a position as a commission to make a decision tonight on whether or not to move forward on a de novo hearing.
Why not?
Because I think we have yet to see the results of the traffic solution.
Well, No, that still has to come back to us when we do the valet parking agreement, the rezoning. That's all already been explained to us.
Yeah, but then we waived our rights to call it up.
Well, you can't, well, do what you want, but you can, I don't think that those things right now have anything to do with the call-up. Right now, the call-up, if you decide you want to call up, you vote to set a de novo hearing, and then basically you're throwing out staff's approval of the site plan, and then we will decide on the site plan.
I know the process,
Right, so,
and I just
okay.
indicated that I don't want to go there.
But-
Because there are two prongs that we had to satisfy. One, we have already satisfied. Two is finding solutions to the traffic predicament. And so the study's already been done. We've identified the predicament. The solutions have yet to be offered, and we can hopefully achieve those solutions without having to do a de novo hearing. So I'm saying procedurally, why don't we defer this to this next meeting and give the staff an opportunity to come up with solutions so that we can better address the situation, better respond to the community, and try to avoid a whole new de novo hearing, which is going to be lengthy and expensive and unnecessary.
Because I don't think that we are going to flesh out all of those solutions in the next 2 weeks in terms of what's going to happen there with a valet agreement. We're way in front now of when a valet agreement is going to come to us. That's way down the road. We can't wait all the way down the road to decide if we're going to approve staff's approval of the site plan or not. The timing is not practical.
Staff has already approved the site plan.
Exactly.
So we're not waiting for that.
I understand, but okay, so you're saying that if we just defer this, then the site plan approval is in effect from staff until we change that, if we ever change that?
Well, it's still in effect, but we do have our call-up rights.
Well,
And that's what we've triggered
Right,
tonight.
but didn't we trigger that by this meeting right now and this walk-on?
Yes, it's true, but now we're not complete with our analysis because we have to determine whether or not there have been any solutions that have been offered to the traffic situation. That's the situation
Yes, but
we're in now. That's the one narrow
Tell
point.
me when we've ever jumped ahead of the program and actually had all of those solutions in place at the time of deciding whether to have a de novo hearing or not. It's down the road.
I'm not here to recall history.
What I'm saying is that that's all down the road, and we have to have those solutions, or else it's just not going to work.
Well, I agree, but we waive our right to a de novo hearing once we pass the deadlines. If we postpone, if we defer the request that you have now triggered, so that we have an opportunity to at least see if there are solutions. Because let's say there are no solutions, we've passed the de novo hearing deadline and it goes forward without the solutions.
There will be solutions. There have to be solutions, or else everything will just fail. Mr. Rogers, I have a question. Ben, I have a question for you.
Yes,
Or maybe it's for Mr. Ansbro, but I don't know if he's here anymore. What's the deadline for us to decide on this de novo hearing? And that's 60. What's the actual date? The actual date.
So you can only set the de novo hearing during a regular commission meeting. So while the 30-day period, I think, extends into the second week of June, you only have one other meeting after today within that period that you can set that hearing.
So the hearing has to either be set or not set at our June 4th meeting?
Correct.
That's the deadline.
It's the deadline.
Okay, thank you.
So you've heard from three of us. Anybody else on the commission want to make a decision tonight as to whether or not we should move forward with the de novo hearing, or let the staff report remain intact and we take no further action? Commissioner Herbst.
So as I understand it, and well, I know covering ground that we've already covered, but I just want to make sure that I'm firm in my understanding. So they've met all the requirements. I guess this is a Chris question.
They have, yeah. They've
So
met
I
all
just
the
want
requirements.
one more time.
Yeah.
So the DDA has essentially met all the requirements of what they're supposed to do at this point.
That's correct. We wouldn't have sent out a call-up had we not felt that was the case.
Okay. Is there any reason, as far as staff is concerned, to deny this project?
Not in terms of, does it meet all the requirements to the ODR?
Requirements
I
of the
understand there's still
ODR, the
questions
code,
about the
and everything
street,
else.
but it meets the ODR, correct?
Okay, so then, no, Mayor, I don't support calling this up.
Okay. Commissioner Beasley Pittman.
I'm going to stand on the side of not calling this up.
Which colleague?
No, I said not calling it
Oh,
up.
not calling it
Yes,
up.
not my
Okay.
colleague.
All right, so, there's the consensus. I've got 3 votes there, not to call it up. So, do you want to say any final word?
Do we have a vote and it's voted up or down? How does the process
Well,
go?
You can move to set a de novo hearing.
You move to set it over, and then we vote yes or no.
Well, there are 3 that have already said they don't
Well,
want to.
but you have to take an act. Okay, I move to have set a de novo hearing.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay, it fails for lack of a second. Okay. Okay, so there's no de novo hearing. Which district is what?
The street in question of traffic.
4.
Good to know.
Okay, moving on to R1. This is an appointment of board and committee members. Mr. Clerk, would you like to read the names into the record?
Yes. For the June 4th resolution, Central City Redevelopment Advisory. Central City Redevelopment Advisory Board, Nicola Stan, nominated by Vice Mayor Glassman. Community Service Boards, Ronald Pierre, nominated by Commissioner Sturman. Performing Arts Center Authority, Barbara Jones, nominated by Commissioner Sturman. And for tonight's resolution, Board of Adjustment, Robert Wolf, nominated by Commissioner Herbst. Douglas Mead, nominated by Commissioner Herbst. Patricia Rathburn, nominated by Commissioner Sturman. Charter Revision Board, Jacqueline Scott, nominated by Mayor Trantelis. Michael Albetta, nominated by Vice Mayor Glassman. Parks, Recreation, and Beaches Board, Stacy Ritter, nominated by Vice Mayor Glassman, and that rounds it out.
Are there any additions or modifications to the names read into the record? There being none, would someone like to introduce the resolution?
Introduced.
Introduced by Commissioner Beasley Pittman. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, appointing or nominating, if applicable, board and committee members as set forth in the exhibit attached here to and made a part hereof. Vice Mayor Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst? Mayor Trentalles?
Yes, and R1's now approved. R2, this is a resolution approving a, oh, wait a minute, I got a, no, okay. This is a resolution approving a second request for a special permit to extend construction hours for the Pier 66 Hotel and Marina development subject to the requirements of Section 17-10, construction of large or complex projects, the City of Fort Lauderdale Code of Ordinances. This is a District 4 matter. I have, oh, I'm sorry, Latricia Greaves, did you want to, I'm sorry. Go ahead. This is regarding the resolution for board appointments. I'm sorry, I did not see this.
It's okay.
Hi.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Commissioners. I just want to come and say thank you for my appointing to the Community Service Board. Not tonight, I've already been there. It's wonderful. I appreciate it. We do great business there. So I just wanted to come and just put some, it's a lot of negativity in the air in Broward County. I just want to come to just say thank you.
Well, thank you for
and we love it.
Thank you for your spending your private time and your personal time and committed to helping the city do better. So we appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
And to all those people who are nominated tonight, thank you for your efforts and for your commitment to our city. Okay, now we have two people who signed up to speak on R2, Chris Smith and Stephanie Toothaker. Stephanie, would you like to bring us up to date as to what's been going on with regard to the request to extend construction hours?
Thank you to the mayor, vice mayor, commissioners, and particularly thank you to the district commissioner, Commissioner Sturman. Held a town hall meeting. We had the opportunity to work with Commissioner Sturman and with the residents in the neighborhood, and we, with the developer who is here, Chris Gandolfo, who's vice president of Tavistock, we worked on some amended hours and commitments from the development team, and I'm going to turn it over to the commissioner in a moment, but I just wanted to read them. So code allows us to go to 7 o'clock p.m. Our original request was to 10 o'clock p.m. We shaved that back to 8 o'clock p.m. So code is 7. We're asking for to 8. We did ask also to start earlier in the morning, start at 6:30. Code allows 8. So essentially, Monday through Sunday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., but with no alarm testing on Sundays, no alarm testing in the mornings. And also, and the alarm testing would only happen 2 to 3 days of the week. It would not be every day. It would be limited to certain days of the week. And I'm just going to
Oh, so
defer
there'd be no alarm testing in the
Let me
morning?
give you a summary. First of all, we had a town hall. And I want to thank Stephanie and her staff. I want to thank Tom, your staff, and the attorney that you had working on it. That was very good. Chris, thank you so much. And I want to thank the people in the community. We had a very robust turnout there. And started out as a bit of a hostile crowd. By the end of the day, it was like almost unanimous, maybe 50 to 2 in favor of it. We'll leave it at that. And let me just tell you what we got out of this. First of all, I want to thank you, John, and the rest of my commissioners for deferring and allowing me that extra 2 weeks to work on this. They would have had the right to go, well, right now, without us, they could go from 8 o'clock to 7 o'clock at night, 6 days a week, and Sunday, from 10 o'clock to whatever, but alarm testing on Sunday.
7 on Sundays.
On Sunday, 7 days a week, alarm testing. The original request had it, instead of 8, starting at 6:30 to 10 o'clock at night. Then we went back and forth, several negotiations. We got it down to 10 o'clock, then to 8 o'clock, and then eventually you removed the morning ones, and now it's going to go from Monday to Saturday, just adding 1 extra hour, 3 days a week, and in return, no alarm testing on Sunday at all. And that proposal was exquisitely well received by the community. I want to thank you for that, and I want to thank the community, and I think that's a huge victory for our community. And John, I know you didn't want to be woken up on Sundays and all. If you look at the hours and the change in that, this is a huge victory for that community. And yes, and I want to thank everybody who participated in it, okay?
Okay.
Thank you again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
So,
Thank you, sir.
so do you support this item?
I want to, can I move this item?
You can. Do you want to introduce it?
I will introduce it.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions with regard to R2?
No questions. I just want to make a comment. I just want to say thank you to Commissioner Sturman, because I was not inclined to approve this because I thought the impact on the neighborhood was a little excessive. But, thanks to your outreach to your community, which I know you're just very, very diligent with, I feel very comfortable with it now. So thank you. I appreciate the work you do, and I'm happy to join you with this one.
We complement each other well, don't we?
I like that.
Compliment
Is this
each other.
Love Fest over? Can I proceed with the
Really,
meeting?
I feel like I should leave the room.
Chris, you don't want to say anything. Okay, please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, authorizing the approval of a second special permit to extend construction hours for the Pier 66 Hotel and Marina development subject to requirements of Section 17-10 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and providing for effective date. Vice Mayor Glassman?
If Commissioner Sturman says that this was exquisitely received, how could I vote other than yes?
Commissioner Beasley
Get out of
Pittman?
here.
Booby.
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and R2 is now approved. Moving on to PH1. Don't go anywhere. So this is the second public hearing to consider a development agreement between the City of Fort Lauderdale and Tavistock Development Company, LLC, Pier 66 Parking, LLC, Pier 66 Ventures, LLC, and Sales Venture, LLC, pursuant to Florida statutes.
Do we need disclosures on this one or not?
I'm sorry?
Do we need disclosures on this one?
Well, I'm not there yet, so just wait. This is the time for anyone in the public to speak about or comment on the amendment to the development agreement. We have the dynamic duo of Stephanie Toothaker and Chris Smith signed up. Nobody else is asked to speak. Do we have to do any disclosures on this? I don't think so. I didn't think so. Okay. So So Commissioner Sturman, did your town hall meeting include?
Yep, I could give you an update on that too.
Yes, please do that.
And I know there's no disclosures, but I did meet with Stephanie Toothaker at length several times. We had some issues on the community. The question was community outreach, that our community know about that. Right after our meeting, Stephanie and I spoke. She gave me a red line version. I shared that with my community, several of which were attorneys. They went through that with a fine-tooth comb. We did bring that back to our town hall. Chris was there, and Tom was there. And what was the name of the other attorney? Sean. Oh, Sean, just come on up. Come on up for a second.
Sean gets to be in the limelight tonight.
Okay. Sean, okay, you want to introduce yourself?
You got to push the button.
Okay. Sean Abernani, City Attorney's Office.
Okay, thank you. You can sit down. Okay, so Sean was there, and we had some questions. It was the way it presented with the light item, the public outreach, the very well-attended community meeting. They had a couple of questions that were there, so I could just alleviate the public, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, but they worried about whether they're going to have extra height. The answer is no. Extra units, no. Extra rights to the community, no. A lot of cleanup for the lenders. One of the concerns was that right-of-way under the bridge. That was not going to be affected by you. If anything, it would be between the city and the DOT. You could take
That's
note,
correct.
and you could answer all these together. Whether they're going to remove any parking. And the big question somebody had was concerned about the impact fees, and the impact fees were set at 2008 levels, and they were very concerned. And turns out that was actually, you could come up again if you'd like, but that was actually a gain that we had. The only gain that we had was one positive, that the impact fees were not going to be locked in for 2018, but at a later date. You want to just explain that for a minute?
Yeah, we clarified the language to lock in the impact fees. Well, actually not lock in, but when they are charged, they'll be at the prevailing rate.
To unlock them, so to speak.
Yeah,
okay.
correct.
Now, Stephanie, do you want to talk about the agreement? Spend a few minutes to go over that.
Well, again, I do want to thank the district commissioner particularly for holding a town hall and giving us an opportunity to speak to the neighbors. And there were a lot of questions. I think as we shared with you in the first hearing, we went through a very detailed red line that showed you that 99% of the changes that were being asked for were lender driven and were clarifications of language, but it didn't change the meaning. And to the commissioner's point, did not increase density, did not change any of the intensities, really didn't impact any of the provisions that were in the original 2018 agreement. There were questions about the property that is owned by FDOT, that is leased to the city of Fort Lauderdale. We made it clear that we don't have a right to that. We'd like the opportunity to make improvements to it if we have that opportunity, which right now we don't. But it doesn't change the fact that that will always remain public land and always remain open to the public. That was I think that was one of the primary questions. The impact fees you already covered, and I'm not sure, Commissioner, if there was anything else that you wanted me to address.
Well, it's about parking underneath the bridge.
The parking as well, the parking
Correct.
would not change. That's
Right.
the way it works now. It's property that's owned by FDOT. They are never giving that up, and they lease it to the city, and the city uses it for parking.
Okay, and the way the DOT came out is that the DOT is not allowed to enter an agreement with a third party, but they can with us. And so the thought was we would enter an agreement with DOT, you would reimburse us for whatever, but it would stay in public realm, we would own it. And I want to thank you for historic designation of the tower. Steve and I both would like to thank you, I know. Okay.
Yes, which is already done. We did that at the
Last meeting,
first
2 weeks
hearing.
ago, was
So
done. I wanna
yes,
thank you for
we're
that.
excited about that too, and we're excited. Thank you for the prior item. We're excited. This project is slated to be done in December of 2024 of this year. So we look forward to having you all at. Some of you have had the chance to do a hard hat tour. We would like to invite all of you to do a hard hat tour. I think it would be really great. Every day it gets a little better, and we're really excited to have a ribbon cutting with all of you present.
Does that complete your questioning?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? Do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Please call the roll on the motion to close public hearing.
Vice Mayor Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst? Yes. Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and public hearing on PH1 is now closed. Would someone like to introduce the resolution? Commissioner Sturman, would you like to?
I'll introduce it, sure.
Okay. Resolution's been introduced. Please call the roll.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida for a first amendment to the development agreement dated August 6, 2018 between the City of Fort Lauderdale, Tavistock Development Company, LLC, P66 Land Trust, LLC, Pier 66 Parking, LLC, and Sale Ventures, LLC pursuant to Chapter 163.3220 to 163.3243 of the Florida statutes, authorizing the execution of the first agreement and providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and PH1 is now approved.
Mayor, I apologize. I neglected to thank the City Attorney's Office, who put so much time and effort into working with us. Tom, Dwayne, and Sean really I really can't say enough about the amount of time and effort that they put into working with the District Commissioner and with us, so I just wanted to say thank you.
Great. Thank you for saying that. We appreciate their talents as well. PH2 is a public hearing, quasi-judicial ordinance approving a rezoning from residential multifamily mid-rise, medium high density district to Uptown Urban Village Northeast District, City of Fort Lauderdale, 150 Northwest 68th Street, Cypress Development, LLC. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the Commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Commissioner Herbst, do you have any disclosures?
Yes, I met with Stephanie and the developer.
Okay. Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
No disclosures.
Okay. I have met with Stephanie Toothaker and her client. Vice Mayor?
I had a conversation with Attorney Stephanie Toothaker.
Okay, and Commissioner Sturman?
Stephanie Toothaker.
Okay. Okay, so this is a quasi-judicial ordinance. There are two people, there are several people who signed up to speak. Let us begin with Robin Merrill. Sister Robin Merrill, are you here? There you are. Followed by Chris Brennan, I think this says, and Saul Perez.
Good evening.
Oh, hi, good evening. It's been a while.
Yes.
Welcome back.
I am here to request that this rezoning get deferred until we can hear from the public that has been displaced. It is a public hearing, and the public that's missing is the people that have just lost their homes. So there's been more than...
where do you want it? Do you want us to set up a town hall meeting, or where is this is a public hearing, so...
Correct.
So what other forum are you recommending that we hear the public?
Well, for one, I'm not so sure that those folks are aware that they have any rights whatsoever, and I'm greatly concerned about that. So I'm also concerned that we have the developer and the new development actually build real affordable housing and not do any buyouts at all. I think at minimum, if we're going to give them a rezoning where they're doubling their allotment and tripling the height, that we should be having at minimum 250 real affordable housing units where the people that have been unhoused at this point, that have lost their homes and their equity, that they would have the option to be able to come back to live where they've lived that has been there for more than 5
My
decades.
understanding is that these were rentals, that they owned their mobile home, but they only rented the site.
That's correct. Most trailer
So
parks
when
are
you
that way,
Okay, but you say they lost their equity.
in their home. The
Well, they
trailer
can-
was their home, and that most of them are too old, they can't move it, or they
Oh, they
couldn't
couldn't
afford
move
it.
their homes? I see, okay.
I mean, if you just listen to one of the stories of the
Yeah.
woman who just paid $35,000 and invested $20,000 to try to upgrade it for her whole family to live
Right.
there. I'm concerned also that the Florida statute for fraud and deception needs to be looked at on behalf of someone like her. For example, not regarding the buyout contract. The buyout contracts, I'm sure, are above board, even though they're horrible. I mean, $10,000-ish.
I think they were given 20,000.
No, they were given 9.8 to 14 something, and then it digressed real fast. So
Okay.
they were forced to make decisions real quick. But my concern in regard to deception and the Florida statute is that woman who bought within a year's time frame, for example, the owner of the land knew he was going to be doing a deal. He shouldn't have allowed people to buy in. And so these are our workers. These are
Shame-
citizens.
Shame on him.
Right. But we need to, I feel, as neighbors, we need to help protect them. They are the workers in our community. They're citizens. They're taxpayers. And I would like to read just one quick thing from one of the people there that said, "We're the ones that work every day for other people. We do your construction. We do your roofing. We're the ones that do your painting and pressure cleaning. We do all the different kind of work, and for what? Is this what we get back?" I think we can do good for them and on their behalf and other workers in the city by making sure that if and when the zoning gets permitted, the rezoning that is, that we ensure that there are real affordable units that are going to be built without buyouts, and that those people who have just been displaced, remember they are homeless right now, they're homeless, offer them a place to come back in. Because for a $10,000 buyout, that's barely first, last, and security. And those are multi-generational families that will live in there, grandparents, parents, and grandchildren. We need to
Okay.
do better by them.
Okay, thank you. Chris, is it Brennan? Followed by Saul, followed by Michael Matvis.
Good evening, guys. Thanks for having us here today and taking the time to field these issues. Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for your email on affordable housing today. I did notice that this subject was missing from it. I think we can all agree that affordable housing is a basic human necessity, and we're falling short on that. There's not a lot here. Like yourselves, I was once a civil servant. I was a park ranger for 10 years. I was also a mayoral candidate in 2015. I've done my time being civically engaged, as most of you know me. Just out of curiosity, how many of you guys have worked in the service and hospitality industry? All right, good. So you guys get it. Like, those jobs are super important to our economy because we want people to come here. We want them to get five-star service. And when our hospitality industry can't afford to live in the city that they work in, that, like myself, I was born here, and I can barely afford to live here. So when you take a place like the trailer park, which, let's face it, that was on like the outskirts of town. That was like way out there. And I mean, by all means, like, upgrade things, make them better, but let's see, what were we talking about? We got the Pan American Trailer Park, which existed for more than 50 years. It was an affordable housing option to these people. Residents, old and new, were given a 6-month notice. And what in this city is a laughable amount of money to relocate. Because, I mean, 10, even 14 grand is not enough for first-class security plus utilities. And if you're going to move a trailer, for God's sake, who knows what that even costs? It's not like an RV. But it was upsetting to find out this amount of people got displaced and were given very little option, very little notice. So that being said, I'd like to motion to, well, no, I can't motion, but I motion, no. But don't allow the developer to do the legal $10,000 per unit buyout instead of actually building affordable units. Bottom line, we gotta get homes for these people so they can continue to bust your tables, cook your food, serve your drinks, and show people a good time here in our great city.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Saul, I think it says Perez. Is Saul here? Oh, our Saul, yes.
Mayor, thank you. Saul is the developer and is happy to address, and I can probably address some of the comments that have been made as well.
Why don't we wait until the end?
Okay.
Let me just call
Thank you.
Michael Matvis. Mike, are you still here? He left. Okay, that was it. So, Saul, do you want to come up here and share with us your thoughts on this? You heard some of the people who spoke.
Absolutely, and I'm...
Your penmanship, by the way, is horrendous.
Thank you all for taking the time to allow me to speak with you today. I am, as a South Florida native, I'm very sensitive to the needs of the community with respect to affordable housing. We took that and the the demographics of the mobile home park into consideration as we were closing it. We abided by every single component of the Florida statute, and in some cases, while I appreciate the other speakers' commentary, in some cases we provided as much as 20 to 30 times the compensation that is required by Florida statute, and it far exceeded the number.
What was do you recall the average amount that you've paid to the individual homeowners?
I have non-disclosures with everyone, but it exceeded those amounts that were said today.
Okay, all right.
But we took that into account. We worked with people. We did not charge rent the last couple months. We were very accommodating, and we were very sensitive. We had people who had special needs. We paid for transportation for them outside of what we gave them, what we offered, and we tried to be very sensitive. We made sure no one was left abandoned. We sent people across the United States on our dime in some cases, just to make sure that they got to their family because they were elderly. So we tried to handle the situation as fairly and as sensitively as possible. We understand that being displaced is never a good thing, and ultimately we did everything that we thought we could do, considering all aspects, to be as accommodating as possible. In addition to that, I am grateful for the city staff and the district commissioner for making time to meet with me. As I expressed to him, it is our intention to address workforce housing as part of our site plan submission for the city and for the county. We're not trying to skirt around any requirements. We intend to address it at the time of site plan. That's still moving around, but that is our full intention. And we appreciate the ability to work with the city and look forward to working with you all for a successful project for the community.
Okay. Do you want to add anything? Because you also signed up to speak.
I think that was really well said. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this item? There being none, would someone like to move to close public hearing?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Glassman.
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman. Commissioner Sturman.
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst.
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis.
Yes. So public hearing is now closed on PH2. Would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
The ordinance has been introduced. Does anyone else from the commission have any other comments?
I certainly do. So I've been pretty vocal, and I spoke with Stephanie and with Saul, that I would never be in favor of rezoning away affordable housing to create market rate housing, and we had a very frank discussion about that. We have an affordability crisis in Fort Lauderdale, in South Florida, and throughout the nation. And eliminating the only affordable properties that I have in my district is something that pains me deeply. They have followed all the requirements of state law. They've offered far in excess of what the requirements are. I did read the survey that was included about the availability of affordable housing within the region. I struggle with it, candidly. If there were in excess of 1,000 affordable units here, we wouldn't have an affordability crisis. But you know, I'm not going to second guess the work of your consultant. I will take it on good faith that they know what they're doing. I'm almost certain that absolutely not one of those is in the city of Fort Lauderdale. I know they can look in a 50-mile radius, so they're probably all in Belt Glade, which unfortunately sort of contradicts the idea that these folks are going to be able to continue to live and work and contribute to the city of Fort Lauderdale. So I am sad that the ultimate outcome of this is that we are displacing people that currently live in the city and will no longer be able to do so. But I recognize at the end of the day that your plan is consistent with the vision of Uptown. This is something we have been working on for the better part of 20 years, going back to Commissioner Bruce Roberts and then Commissioner Moritas before me. So I don't want to stand in the way of progress. And so what I asked Saul, and I'm sharing this all with you, was a commitment to bring, and I know we can't do affordable. And Sister Robin, I would love it to be affordable, but I understand from the economics that that's probably just not feasible in their project. But I do think that we can do workforce housing. And so I've asked, and they've committed that they're going to bring workforce housing back to the site. The exact number is still in flux, but I'm going to take it on good faith because you've worked with me on good faith. I'd like to get back to the 200 number. I know that's a challenge for you, but as we're working through the site plan, I'd like to work towards that. Again, I'm not going to specify a number tonight, but I want a commitment from you that will work towards getting as close to that number as is realistically and economically possible from you. And I know when we had that conversation, you said you're willing to do that, just not commit to an exact number. But it's more of we're going to work in good faith to try and get there because we have to have workforce housing up there. I need housing for teachers, for nurses, for my public employees. I recognize that you can't do the kind of rents and the project and what you're paying for it and still keep it affordable for our service workers. I get that. I lament that. It's sad. I'm sorry that we've lost again that affordable component in my district, but I also recognize that, again, this is consistent with the overall vision of what we're trying to accomplish in Uptown. So with that, I will support the rezoning, but when we come back and we talk about the site plan, I'm really going to want to have that conversation about how we're going to bring workforce housing to this area. So on that, I will support it.
Thank you.
Would you like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
The ordinance has been introduced. Anyone else have any comments or questions? There being none, would you please?
Comment. Understanding the challenge that we are having with affordable housing and the option to bring in workforce housing, we got to figure something out here, because to go from an opportunity where there was affordable housing, sustainable type housing, and now they're being replaced where individuals have to leave our city. Yes, understanding what's going on, not only in our city, the county, the state, nationwide, I believe we can mastermind and come up with something to be able to avoid these large numbers being lost. Because this is becoming a rabbit hole. We're not going to get out of this position if we continue to remove affordable and go to anything other than affordable housing. That's my comment.
Okay.
One final thing, I'm sorry, I just want to ask this, because I think Sister Robin made a good point. What I'd like to ask, and again, we have a long way to go, but I just want to kind of put this out there, is when we do the workforce component, that we allow those folks that were displaced first look at least on that. I know we've done that with our other workforce projects where we've given first look. For example, there's a project that was financed in part by the Police and Fire Pension Fund, and so police officers and firefighters were given first look. Obviously, you can't restrict it to them. That would be a fair housing violation, but we are allowed to do first look. So I'd like to ask at least that we take the folks that were displaced. I'm sure you know where they all are since you cut checks to all of them, and at least offer them a first look at whatever those rates are that are going to be in effect.
Is first look the same as first refusal?
It's an opportunity. It's essentially before it hits the market, and I don't think, as long as it's not a fair housing violation, we can make some sort of announcement. And as an aside, we take public servants and teachers, firefighters, police with a lot of seriousness and a lot of respect, and very often we create incentive programs for them to be the first people that move in. I mean, we love to have first responders, members of the community, and we create some sort of incentive program oftentimes. So I think that's our plan at this time. I'm grateful to the district commissioner for making the time to meet with me and for city staff. And in addition to that, I look forward to better addressing the workforce housing down the line. Again, today what you're seeing are 3 phases. There is a separate parcel that the plan has not been put out yet. So we're working very hard and look forward to continue working hard for the city and for the district commissioner.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, there being none, please call the roll.
In ordinance amending section 47-1.6.b of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida Unified Land Development Regulations through the revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale and Schedule A revised compilation attached thereto and by reference made a part thereof, so as to rezone from residential multifamily mid-rise medium high density district to urban uptown village northeast district, a portion of the north half of the northeast quarter of section 10 township 49 range 42 east, together with all of blocks 1, 2, and 3 North Collier Estates according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 53, page 33 of the Public Records of Broward County, Florida, located south of McNabb Road, east of Florida East Coast Railway, west of North Andrews Avenue, and north of Northwest 66th Street, all said lands being in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida. Vice Mayor Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and PH2 is now approved. Thank you. PH3, a public hearing, quasi-judicial ordinance approving a rezoning from residential multifamily mid-rise, medium high density district to uptown urban village northeast district, City of Fort Lauderdale. Again, 150 Northwest 68th Street, Cypress Development. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Commissioner Herbst, do you have any additional disclosures?
None other than the ones we've already made.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
None.
Vice Mayor?
No additional.
No additional. And Commissioner Sturman?
No additional.
I have no additional either, other than the ones that I mentioned, which was with Saul and with Stephanie Toothaker. So the same people have signed up to speak. Sister Robin Merrills, any additional comments you wish to make? I think she left. Oh, she left. And Michael Madfis is not here. Okay, do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Been moved. Do I hear a second? Second?
Second.
Wake up. Okay, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Glassman? Yes. Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and public hearing on PH3 is now closed. Would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
Introduced.
It's been introduced. Please call the roll.
In ordinance amending section 47-1.6.b of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida Unified Land Development Regulations through the revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale and Schedule A revised compilation attached thereto and by reference made a part thereof so as to rezone from residential multifamily mid-rise medium high density district to uptown urban village district, a portion of the southeast quarter of the southeast quarter of the southwest quarter, and a portion of the southwest quarter of the southwest quarter of the of the southeast quarter of
Sounds like you're painting yourself into a corner.
I'm sorry,
here.
could you say that again? I missed one of those southwests on the southeast.
Which portion was that?
Sold.
I am not sure. Of Section 3, Township 49 South, Range 42 East, located north of McNabb Road, east of the Florida East Coast Railway, west of North Andrews Avenue, and south of the C-14 Canal, all said lands being in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida. Vice Mayor Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Could you repeat that again?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst?
Yes.
Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and PH3 is now approved. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
You know, I agree with Commissioner Beasley Pittman on the necessity of trying to continue to find workforce affordable housing. The only thing is, you know, mobile home parks have been a great way to find affordable housing for a lot of individuals. But I have to tell you, as our hurricane season continues to threaten us, we always see that the mobile home parks are the ones that get destroyed at first. And we have to find an alternative solution where people who normally might live in a mobile home can find reasonable, affordable housing opportunities that are more sustainable than simply, you know, a solution of the past. And I'm hoping that, Saul, you'll be able to help us with this and help Fort Lauderdale fulfill its obligation to find additional affordable housing for people that work in our community. Thank you.
Mayor, the only thing I'll say is that mobile home park has survived Katrina, Irma, and every other hurricane that has come through here for the last 30 years, whereas City Hall did not. So respectfully, don't knock mobile homes. My brother has lived in a double wide for the last 30 years. It's still standing.
But I think you know what I mean.
Thank you very much.
The trees on Las Olas have survived for all those hurricanes too, but okay. OSR 1, second reading, quasi-judicial ordinance approving a rezoning from General Aviation Airport District to Parks Recreation Open Space District, 5101 Northwest 12th Avenue in the city of Fort Lauderdale. Anyone wishing to speak must be sworn in, and the commission will announce any site visits, communications, or expert opinions received and make them a part of the record. Commissioner Herbst, do you have any additional disclosures? None. Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
None.
I have none. No additional ones. Commissioners, Vice Mayor?
None.
And Commissioner Sturman?
None.
Okay. So no one has signed up to speak. So do I hear a motion to close public hearing?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst? Yes. Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and public hearing on OSR 1 is now closed. Do I hear someone please introduce the ordinance? It's been introduced. Please call the roll.
An ordinance amending section 47-1.6.b of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida Unified Land Development Regulations through the revision of the official zoning map of the City of Fort Lauderdale and Schedule A revised compilation attached thereto and by reference made a part thereof so as to rezone from General Aviation Airport District to Parks, Recreation, and Open Space District a portion of the southeast corner of Tract 1 FXC plat according to the plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 119, page 4 of the Public Records of Broward County, Florida, also being a portion of the southwest quarter of the northeast quarter of Section 16, Township 49 South, Range 42 East, located south of Northwest 66th Street, east of Northwest 15th Avenue, west of Northwest 12th Avenue, and north of West Commercial Boulevard, all said lands being in the City of Fort Lauderdale, Broward County, Florida, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst? Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and OSR 1 is now approved on second reading. OSR 2 is the second reading of an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, amending Article 11 entitled Solicitation and Display on Public Rights of Way, Section 25-267 entitled Right of Way Solicitors and Canvassers of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. This is a second reading. One person to sign up to speak. Chris Nelson, would you like to step forward?
This is the Panther thing?
Yes, hello, Chris Nelson.
I'll give that back to you. I didn't need that. Thank you.
It looks like this meeting's going to be wrapped up by 8:30, 9 o'clock tonight.
Depends how long you talk.
I love that we can talk back and forth.
Really?
Even with Vice Mayor Glassman, we can go back and forth, right? But so this ordinance, what I believe it's going to do is it's going to empower the police to arrest people that are coming up and harassing us in our cars at intersections. I believe that's what this does.
So watch it.
Yeah, right. No, you're not going to see me doing that. But this, but I do feel for people that need help. But this is a safety hazard. Okay, when you're coming up off of the intersection on 95, there's guys walking up there and they're wearing all black clothes and they're walking in the middle of the road. We all know the gentleman in the wheelchair who is down there on Broward Boulevard in the middle of the road. And you know, everybody's driving, looking down at their phones. I never do that, but other people do that, and could almost run into this guy. I don't know how this guy's still alive. But another thing is
we have
that
careful drivers in South Florida.
we must. I mean, except for I see a lot of people on bicycles getting hit, but in the news. But I fully support this. We've got to do something about this. And also, you know, I have no problem, but when my wife or when a woman by herself is in her car and some of these aggressive people, I mean, they come right up to your window and they get pretty aggressive. That's got to be against the law. I mean, that should be immediately arrestable. So I fully support this. Thanks for bringing it up, Commissioner Sturman. And yeah, please crack down on this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Did you bring this up?
No. I'll take credit. I get blamed when I take credit.
Okay. Okay, do we have to close public hearing on this? No. Okay. Would someone like to introduce, so does anyone else wish to speak on this? Okay. Okay, the ordinance has now been introduced. Please call the roll.
In ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, amending Article 11 entitled Solicitation and Display on Public Rights-of-Way of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, to change the title of Article 11 to Pedestrians and Traffic Safety, amending Section 25-267 entitled Right-of-Way Solicitors and Canvassers, to amend regulations pertaining to persons soliciting in rights-of-way and change the title of Section 25-267 to Pedestrians and Traffic Safety, providing for severability, repeal of conflicting ordinance provisions, and providing for an effective date. Vice Mayor Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst? Yes. Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and congratulations, Commission. We have now approved this, and I hope we can make it work in our community. OSR 2 is now approved on second reading. Okay, we have a couple of add-ons. First, let's talk about the public art. Where is that? Do I have a piece of paper for that?
Let's see if I can help you out here.
I don't have this. Thank you. This is a walk-on. Staff recommends recommends the City Commission approve the acquisition of the Manolo Valdez head with butterflies as an integral part of the James Winder Laird donation, and authorize the placement of the sculpture within Hazinga Park. The city will retain ownership of the sculpture and will work with the Downtown Development Authority to place the sculpture. So this was approved by the where's Josh? Josh, can you want to come up? We're trying to enhance the cultural experiences of District 4, right? This was approved by the DDA. Was this also put before our culture? Our
Public Art and Placemaking Advisory Board? Yes, sir. They approved it as well.
They approved it as well. Okay, and the trustee of the James Laird Trust is also approved this.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so okay. Does anyone have any questions of Josh? Would someone like to introduce, what is it, a motion, or what is it? It's a motion. Would someone like to make the motion to approve the acquisition of the Manolo Valdez head with butterflies sculpture? Commissioner Sturman, it's in your district. Do you want to make the motion?
Okay.
Okay.
So enthusiastic.
No. I just think this for the first time.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
No.
Okay. Please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst? Yes. Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and City Commissioners now approved that. Thank you so much. We appreciate
Thank
all
you
your
very
work,
much.
Josh, that you do with that. And I saw Phil Dunlop here. I guess he had an early bedtime. Yeah, okay. Okay. Thank you very, very much. Okay, now the resolution this is being proposed by Commissioner Sturman. Commissioner Sturman, can I just say one thing?
Sure.
I think this is a great resolution. The only thing I have a little concern about is the last whereas clause, because I don't know if that's the truth. The changes were proposed without meeting with the Dillard, Fort Lauderdale, and Stranahan Innovation Zones, community organizations, or businesses. I don't know if that's the case.
No, I think we nixed it.
Okay, if we can remove that.
No, we nixed.
I'm
We
good
took
with
out.
the,
We took
I'm
out
good with the
3 of
rest
them.
The rest of it is great.
Right.
I had a question because actually it looks like you took out 4 of them. So I was wondering what happened to the whereas and what you originally gave us this afternoon. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th one. Whereas the changes were proposed without meeting. Is that
just
in
said
there?
that.
No,
I
the
just
one
said
after it. I'm sorry. Whereas the proposals were not shared with the City of Fort Lauderdale Education Advisory Board prior to the initial release of 30 schools considered for redefining on April 29, 2024, nor the amended release on May 14, 2024. So you removed that one also, so 4 were removed, right?
Well, I removed 3, but if you want to remove that 4th.
No, you did remove
No, but
that.
it's not here.
Right, that was removed.
Yes, it was removed.
It was removed from the original draft you gave
Well,
us
here's the
this
deal. I
afternoon.
instructed the
We
attorney to...
don't need to put that stuff in.
No, I agree with you. I instructed him to remove 3 if you want, but this one has 4 removed, and I'm okay with that
Yeah,
also.
I'm just asking for clarification.
No,
because
okay,
there
I
are
removed
4 that
3.
were removed
If
when
there's
we thought
4 that's
3.
removed, I'm okay with that also.
Okay. Just want to make sure you're aware that a 4th
Okay,
one was removed.
we'll go with as amended, with the 4 removed.
Okay, so Commissioner Sturman is introducing the resolution
Yes.
number 24 as amended. Anyone have any questions?
I'm sorry, which additional one are we removing?
This one we're removing, this one, because we don't really know that they didn't go before community organizations or businesses. So we want to remove that, just all the others are staying.
Okay.
All right. Please call the roll.
Okay, as amended.
As
As amended.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, requesting the School Board of Broward County, Florida, to work with local schools, innovation zones, the City of Fort Lauderdale Education Advisory Board, and local communities on proposals to enhance current programs and address any deficiencies in schools, to focus attention on schools in need of additional resources, facility improvements, and enhanced programming, to create a process for community engagement, and providing for distribution of this resolution and an effective date. Vice Mayor Glassman?
Yes.
Commissioner Beasley Pittman?
Yes.
Commissioner Sturman?
Yes.
Commissioner Herbst? Yes. Mayor Trentalis?
Yes, and that resolution is now approved. Thank you, Commissioner Sturman, for bringing that forward. Is there any further business of the commission? Mr. City Attorney, do you have any closed-door sessions you want to announce? You have none. Susan, do you have anything you want to say before you leave on your trip?
All good, and
All good?
enjoyed my
Okay.
first meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you. First meeting, yes, Susan.
Okay,
Wow.
congratulations,
Yeah,
everybody.
we'll see you after
This
the
meeting is
break.
now concluded. Thank you.